year on his third major race. He was destined for greatness, but his dream to run the 42-kilometer marathon in under 2 hours, a first in open competition, was shattered when he was killed in a road crash yesterday. Yeah, the story has been covered extensively on the Daily Nation this morning on page 2, 3, 37, 38, and 39. Story covered in a befitting way then to that record holder, Kelvin Kiptum. May his soul rest in peace. Any other story they're going to read on the Daily Nation? Is it is a nightmare? Story has been covered on page 6 and 7. It was meant to ease access to public services by enabling Kenyans to apply and pay for them at their convenience using their mobile phones or computers and noble ID on paper. But the e-citizen plan is now characterized more by patients waiting hours to end to see doctors, car dealers unable to register and transfer ownership of vehicles, and banks battling similar NTSA registration hurdles. The red tape just got worse. That's on page 6 and 7 of the Daily Nation right here. If you look at other stories that have been covered here heavily is just on Kelvin Kiptum tributes. And on the back page, you're going to read a story how as a secretary of the cabinet, Mercy Wanjau, is saying that the cabinet is yet to ratify bill on our CAS posts. Now, the cabinet has not approved a state-sponsored bill which seeks to enshrine in law the position of the chief administrative secretaries. Now, these are the remarks of Secretary to the Cabinet, Mercy Wanjau, who appeared before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Administration and National Security and Justice and Legal Affairs to give views on the national government administration progress, or the amendment bill that is essentially on the last page of the Daily Nation. There's also a story here about how Education CS Machogu now cautions universities and colleges against raising fee. On the Standard this morning, there's some story of tributes then to Kelvin Kiptum. Was born in 1999, passed on at just the age of 24. A marathon record holder spoke to two people dear to his heart, his father and his wife. He made them a promise that may just be that. To his wife, he vowed to be the first human to run a marathon under 2 hours. To his father, he had bought land and pledged to build a church. Sunday night, the legendary athlete bowed out after being involved in a tragic accident. That is on page 2, 3, and 38 of the Standard. And right here, you're going to read about tribute to Kiptum, all the way from the wife, Asnat Kiptum, to his father, Samson Cheriot, and the World Athletics President, Seko, who's essentially then going through those tributes. Good. On pages 5, Raila to RUTO, do not touch our security organs. And on page 40, Ivory Coast proved doubters wrong in AFCON. If you're just waking up to this news, then you do know that this weekend, Nigeria could not move past Ivory Coast. Proved to be strong. It was a 50-50 match, but then it was a match where the first or the last to score would have essentially gone with that particular crown, and Ivory Coast did prove to be them. But there's also a story on page 6 about 4 people in the Devani treating case set free. That story has been covered on page 6. Yeah, and on the back page there, you're going to see those beautiful images as Ivory Coast then emerge African winners. But the big news is that, well, the next African Cup of Nations competition, it's not really clear whether it's going to get played in 2025 because of how full the schedule is. Yeah, this is a big news essentially after this one. Now, just before we take a second breather and come back with our newsroom on the business early this morning. We're going to read about how the new Eurobond seen easing pressure on domestic debt and interest rates. We're going to look at it like this. Kenya's return to the international bonds market yesterday is set to relieve pressure on local lenders to finance the budget deficit for the current fiscal year, signaling a potential retreat in domestic debt interest rates. Yeah, we're going to read about that particular story. And also, was tributes to Kelvin Kiptum, posing there with his beautiful trophy. That's it. Take a tiny breather once we come back on Newsroom. Welcome back. Now, Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education, KUPPET, national officials in unison have opposed the move by the government to compel parents to use the e-citizen platform in paying school fee, noting that it will be difficult for many Kenyans. KUPPET Secretary General Akelo Misori led the officials in calling on the government to assure Kenyans that they will respect and fully obey court orders which have discontinued parents from using e-citizen platforms to school fee. George Kayesi with the news wrap.
In a show of solidarity with parents in learning institutions, KUPPET officials have joined hands to oppose the plan by the government to have parents make school fees payments through e-citizen platform. This comes after court order was issued to the government to have them halt the plans, which prompted the officials led by the Union Secretary General demanding that the government should assure Kenyans they will fully respect and obey court orders.
We are asking government to guarantee that they will respect and obey the court orders in relation to the e-citizen platform.
Elsewhere, Mbeere North lawmaker Geoffrey Ruku has cautioned teachers in Mbeere that it is the moral obligation to improve the state of affairs in the semi-arid region that has declined for a long time. Ruku also took a swipe at the teachers at Kaungu Primary for failing to help in ensuring the ablution block is clean. He was speaking during the handing over of development check to Kaungu Primary School, which would model the learning institution and give it a new look.
Ya Mbeere North imekuwa imedhoofika miaka mingi, na ni lazima tuimarishe elimu ya Mbeere North ikae sawasawa. Mashule yetu mingi katika Mbeere North, iwe ni ya sekondari ama ni ya primary school, iko katika hali mbaya kama vile ambayo tunaona kwa sasa. Ile ikifika miezi 3 miezi 4 kutoka leo, itakuwa imepandilika ikae shule ya kisasa.
Finally, bodaboda operators in Bungoma County have expressed concerns over rising cases of insecurity and accident in the county, and some of their colleagues' lives are cut short. In a meeting held at the Commissioner's office to discuss the issues, the bodaboda operators led by the chairman Alex Kiusia also called on President William Ruto to make good his campaign promises.
Tumekutana wa ofisi ya County Commissioner wa Bungoma kushughulikia mambo ya insecurity na mambo ya safety ya watu wetu wa bodaboda. Na mambo ya security, kuna sehemu zingine watu wetu wanauawa kama aswa wanabodaboda, na watu na vijana wengine wanauawa hapa town.
George Kayesi, Lookuptv.
Nairobi Court has acquitted a business person, Yanesh Devani, and 4 others in a 1.5 trillion shilling saga after 22 years. The court Monday said the prosecution failed to prove fraud claims against Kenya Commercial Bank. Last month, Devani was charged with stealing 318.656 metric tons of jet fuel after being on the run since 2008, when he is said to have committed the offense. Lona Omboya with the details.
Appearing before the court on Monday, Divani pleaded not guilty to the criminal charges filed against him and his company, Triton Petroleum Company Limited, and released on a $1 million bond.
Today, it was meant to be a mention in respect to the matter. That is why we were not able to be there in touch.
Is it a mention for hearing?
From my record, it was a mention.
But the court record shows it's a hearing.
Maybe it was then a mistake on my part.
Okay.
The charges range from the theft to fraudulent disposition of mortgage products acquired with facilitation from KCB. According to the prosecution, Divani used his company Triton to carry out the business. He left for the United Kingdom when his co-accused were charged and the court issued a warrant of arrest against him. It is said that Divani struck a deal with top government officials in 2023 to leave London for Nairobi to take the plea. He had a warrant of arrest on his head.
Your Honor,
Yes.
we are in the process of having these witness statements and the exhibits ready. Your Honor, we pray for a period on that. In this case, the same exhibits that we are using in 1151.
The court was told that between May 15th, 2008 and December 4th, 2008 at Kipevu Oil Storage Facility within Mombasa County, jointly with others not before court, stole 418,134 metric tons of motor spirit premium valued at $438,031.10 the property of Kenya Commercial Bank. The businessman, whose next hearing will be had on March 26th, is out on a cash bail of $1 million.
We're going to have the 3rd of April, and the mention is 26th for trial directions. All right. So we come back on 26th of March.
Yes, sir.
And then the hearing is on.
Lona Lorraine Omboya, Lookuptv.
Multimedia University students now want Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu to confirm their acting Vice-Chancellor with immediate effect, failure to which they will take to the streets. As Stanley Lugaria now reports, VC Rosabella Maranga was appointed by President William Ruto on an acting capacity basis in January, with students describing her as a highly qualified, and her confirmation is long overdue.
Want Prof Maranga, we want Prof Maranga.
Hilary Oyo and Karel Omoyo, student leaders, now claim that there is a hidden conspiracy not to endorse the Vice-Chancellor Rosabella Maranga, who is currently in acting capacity, pointing and accusing finger at Education CS Ezekiel Machogu, saying he is the major obstacle in the success of the entire process, despite the VC being qualified to head the institution and having a green light from the Senate Council of the institution with the President William Ruto.
Today we stand united in calling for the immediate confirmation of Professor Rosabella Maranga as the Vice-Chancellor of this great university.
Yes.
We will wish to thank the President for the appointment of Professor Rosabella Maranga as the acting Vice-Chancellor.
Yes.
We also wish to thank the University Council chaired by Honorable Moses Olesakuda and CS Honorable Dr. Ezekiel Machogu for the nomination of Professor Maranga to manage the university in the interim.
The student leaders are complaining of derailed service delivery in the school, maintaining their stand to take to their streets in protest should another Vice-Chancellor be brought in by the ministry.
Maranga is ready to take us to Southeast, a land of milk and honey, where we have clean hostels, where we have clean pavements, where we have cheap food in the school. And Professor Rosabella Maranga has proven that she can do that job. Comrades, power! Comrades, power! Comrades, zaga zaga! Then we are waiting for a confirmation. As comrades, things are bad here in multimedia. Things are at a stalemate. We want her confirmed immediately.
Together, they claim that the relevant leaders have approved Maranga's appointment, calling on CS Machogu to confirm and gazette her to take over the leadership mantle as soon as possible.
That any Kenyan of goodwill who recognizes the beauty of having a woman at the helm and providing the motherly love and care and guidance to support the cause and ensure that Multimedia University becomes an emblem of other prospering university, not only in Kenya, but in the world.
Rosbella Maranga was appointed following the former VC of the university, Professor Festus Kaberia's tenure, which came to a close after serving and completing 10 years in the office.
Magadi Road will be impassable.
Failure to which we are rendering Magadi Road impassable. We are fearless, and even the police around knows our capabilities. They should not try us.
It is now clear, after a peaceful, what they call as a press briefing, the Multimedia University students are now threatening to take it to the streets, failure to which, in a case where Dr. Professor Rosbella Maranga is not instilled or installed as the current VC of the great university. Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
The current world marathon record holder, after clocking 2 hours and 35 seconds in the Chicago Marathon, shattering veteran athletes Eliud Kipchoge record of 2 hours 1 minute and 9 seconds. Kelvin Kiptum was awarded the Athlete of the Year award outside the field. The year 2023, Brian Mose looks at Kiptum's journey of success since he made his first step on the tracks.
Born in December 2nd, 1999 and raised in Chepsamo village, 30 kilometers from Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, Kelvin Kiptum started running at the age of 13 years, where he followed marathon runners on local trials. Soon after, he entered his first half marathon in Eldoret half marathon and finished 10th in the race. He made his international debut in 2019 and clocked 59 minutes and 54 seconds to finish 5th at the Lisbon Marathon, among other competitions. In the year 2022, he won the Valencia Marathon, timing 2 hours, 1 minute and 53 seconds. And at the 2023 London Marathon, Kiptum clinched the title in 2 hours, 1 minute and 25 seconds in Chicago Marathon. The same year, Kiptum shattered the world record, taking 34 seconds off Eliud Kipchoge's record from 2022. The performance that led him being named the 2023 World Athlete of the Year for men's out of the stadia events. Brian Mose, Lookuptv.
Let's move on now. Different leaders have come out to mourn the death of marathoner Kelvin Kiptum, which occurred Sunday night. President William RUTO led leaders in sending their tributes. The late Kiptum has been described as a promising star whose life had been cut short unexpectedly.
As they say, grief is the most peculiar thing. We are so helpless in the face of it. It's like a window that will simply open on its own accord. The room grows cold and we can do nothing but shiver. That was and still is the feeling across the country following the demise of marathon world record holder Kelvin Kiptum. Various leaders across the globe have condoled Kiptum as an icon of the sport following the tragic end to his life on Sunday night along the Kaptagat-Eldoret highway. President William RUTO led the nation in mourning Kiptum, terming him as arguably one of the world's finest sportsmen who broke barriers to secure a marathon record. An extraordinary sportsman was left an extraordinary mark in the globe. Our thoughts are with the family and the sporting fraternity. IAAF President Sebastian Coe, while mourning Kiptum, noted that it was only earlier this week in Chicago, the place where Kelvin set his extraordinary marathon world record, that he was able to officially ratify his historic time. Coe termed Kiptum as an incredible athlete, leaving an incredible legacy, and he will be missed dearly. Double Olympic champion Mo Farah tweeted, and I quote, "I'm so sad to hear the passing of Kelvin Kiptum and his coach Gervais Hakizimana. Kelvin was an amazingly talented athlete and had already achieved so much. He truly had a special talent, and I have no doubt he would have gone on to have an incredible career." Former marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge was equally shocked by the tragic passing of the marathon world record holder and rising star Kelvin Kiptum. Kipchoge noted that Kiptum had a whole life ahead of him and was bound to achieve great things. Sports CS Ababu Namwamba had this to say.
Brilliant young man who had hit the top of the world, and at only 24 was destined to dominate and rule the world of marathon running for a long time.
World Athletics joined various athletes across the globe, including Ugandan Joshua Cheptegei, David Rudisha, Faith Kipyegon, Ferdinand Omanyala, and many others in mourning Kiptum as an icon of the sport who was destined for greatness. Kiptum's demise is a big blow to not only the athletics fraternity, but the country at large, leaving an indelible mark in the field that he was tipped to reign supreme, starting with the much anticipated Paris 2024 Olympics, where he was set to square it out with compatriot Eliud Kipchoge. May his soul rest in paradise. Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
Let's move on then. This morning, Samson Cheriot, the father of late world marathon record holder Kelvin Kiptum, has revealed that 4 strange men visited his home 4 days before his son's untimely death. Speaking on Monday, the heartbroken Cheriot recounted that 4 strange people showed up at his home, persistently inquiring details about the departed athlete 4 days, claiming to be government officials and saying that the late Kiptum was under investigation. Brown Amwai reports.
It is the death of a son that has left the family in distress. A young man in perfect health whose life was cut short in a road accident Sunday night. Kenyan marathoner Kelvin Kiptum is no more, and the family is crying, pained by the loss of their kin. With his father reading malice into the death of his son.
Sina mengi, nasikia uchungu, na mtoto yangu, si yangu, ni ya Kenya na dunia. Alijaribu kila njia, hata Jumamosi jioni tulikuwa na yeye nyumbani hapa. Akaniambia endelea na maombi. Alafu akaenda Prosper. Alafu Jumapili ndio Mungu alichukua. Lakini sio Mungu, ni Saitani.
Samson Cheriot, the father of the late world marathon record holder, has revealed what transpired days before his son's untimely death. The face of a father pained by the loss of his son recounts with a broken heart trying to piece strange events that happened before his untimely demise. Cheriot recounted that 4 strange people claiming to be government officials showed up at his home inquiring details about the departed athlete for 4 days. Upon the father's request for them to reveal their identities, the 4 left his compound.
Na hiyo watu walikuja kwangu, sijaamini mpaka saa hii. Hata tunatoka State House. Moja ni askari, ngine sijui, lakini najua natoka kama msuri ngine. Wacha niwachie Mungu.
Kiptum's father is now appealing to the government to investigate and determine the circumstances that may have led to the death of his only son.
Walikuja 4 days from now, walikuja sema ati hata sitaki hata niseme hiyo watu ngine natoka Siwa, walikuwa watu 4. Hata niko na number plate ya gari. Na niko na namba ya simu. Sijui alikuwa anataka kufanyia nini kijana yangu, I don't know. Baka nikaambia munipatie mimi vitu ya kuonyesha wewe ni mtu ya serikali. akakataa.
Kiptum tragically lost his life in a road accident on the night of Sunday alongside his coach and a female passenger when he lost control of the vehicle, veered off the road and plunged into a ditch before hitting a tree. Kiptum and his coach died on the spot while the female passenger sustained serious injuries. Brian Amwai, Lookuptv.
Brian Amwai, with that particular story then, is where we're going to get our first break this morning on the morning draft. Now, the EFCC boss is saying one thing, that it can be everywhere. And on his keen observation, it's like majority of you chose the wrong leaders to those administrative positions in your counties. Goes on to say that in his mind, Kisumu County is one of the best run counties, very accountable. But the rest of them, for lack of a better word in Kiswahili, it is trajikanga kwa mafuta yetu sisi wenyewe. But the members of parliament are coming back from their long recess today. I've got a plate that is completely full with issues that they have to look into this morning. And that's what we're going to ask. What is of priority for them today as they walk into the National House? A couple of issues that the president would like for them to tackle. The NATCO report, which as we spoke yesterday, is upon Wetangula maybe to call in it and see exactly where they can start with that. That's exactly what we're going to talk about this morning. I can see Prof. Ogola already seated in the studio. Also, Edward Githaiga is also in the studio this morning, just ready then for us to weigh in on those particular issues. What is a priority as the National House comes back from recess? It's either they got to start on the bills that the president wants them ratified and cleaned before they're tabled again in the National House to be passed into law, or to go back to that NATCO report and say, well, maybe on this issue for IEBC, because Raila Amolo Odinga said he's gone to the streets, we got to start with it. We take a tiny breather. Once we come back, then we jump straight into that conversation this morning. Good morning.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
All right. It is February 13th, a day before Valentine's. But then I was informed yesterday that it's also Ash Wednesday. So, you know what happens on Ash Wednesday? I do not go to church on Sunday. But then,
tell you.
Yeah, you tell us. So, no meat.
Ash Wednesday for Catholics, there is no eating meat tomorrow. And also you need to survive at least on a half of what you take for lunch so that you can donate to the poor.
That's it.
I think it doesn't talk about flowers, but for the men who are broke, being that this year is a very tough year, it's a very easy excuse to say, let's pray. You keep your wife and your girlfriend in serious prayer.
That's it.
And fasting. That means that all the dinner expenses will be gone.
We can't.
Yes.
We can't survive
and
on
we
half.
cannot carry flowers on the day.
That's it.
The day we are actually almost entering in a mourning season when we need to be more close to God than enjoying life. So I think it's a fantastic. It's bigger than main conference.
That's it.
It's called more than main conference.
By the way, that's it. There are three things happening tomorrow. So it's gonna be Ash, men's conference, and Valentine's. When you rate them in terms of importance, I do not know where Valentine's
Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday is the most important. Yeah, men's conference number 2.
Yes.
The economy is not doing okay. We gotta sit down and talk about how to better the economy. And then number 3, if you got time for it, then Valentine's. So I don't know. I don't know whether your girlfriends and your loved ones are gonna be okay with not taking any type of meat tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's Valentine's.
They can eat sukuma wiki.
My question is, my question would be, as a conscious African, Pan-African, where did Valentine come from, and what's its relation to the Catholic Church? Because it's Saint Valentine's, and it's interesting. I've never had that alignment in the Catholic fraternity, where Ash Wednesday falls on Valentine.
You know, the Catholic Church will not even give Valentine even a mention.
So why call him a saint?
Because it comes from.
Was there a Saint Valentine?
It comes from a pagan tradition.
No, what I'm asking, because we know Catholics are the ones who are known for saints. So was that a saint,
No.
Valentine, and then he rebelled or something?
It is not as such a Catholic, because let me tell you what, Valentine's Day is not even celebrated globally.
Yes.
When I was in Spain, there used to be another day which comes in April, also 14th of April, and it's more celebrating the patron saint of the Catalan people and of the Spanish people. It's a day, this person was a person who fought a war and enabled Spain to recapture what they had lost to the Arabs. And they remember him as the symbol of love. And on that day, which I like Kenyans need to adopt, the man buys a flower to the woman, but the woman buys a book to the man. Do you know what that means? That men are actually more stupid than women. So you buy a book, read something. Maybe you don't know about love, you don't know about money, you don't know about something. But the women actually receive flowers, which means that it's actually a requirement that you have to express your love no matter what. So you read the book, then you express your love by a flower.
That's it.
It's a very interesting dimension, because in Spain, no one talks about Valentine's Day. And remember, Spanish is 98% Catholic.
Yes.
So if they don't even know Valentine's Day, which comes in February, they focus on their own. I'm just looking at, I'm just remembering the name. I'll remember the name, I'll tell you the end. They do theirs in April. I used to feel off, whereby you are in Spain. If you have a girlfriend in Kenya, you treat her for Valentine's Day. If you have a girlfriend in Spain, you treat her for this other special day in Spain. So the British who live in Spain, they have to do 2 of them. One to the Valentine, which they recognize, and then this other one special.
They recognize in Spain. Here's the thing, decide. There is just a couple of hours to that. Let's see exactly what wins. For us, who know? We already know. Anyway, two things are happening today. Also away from Valentine's, your members of parliament are going back to the National House, a time when Kenya is staring at tough economic times. Bills that have been pushed to you, as we do know, Chief has already been given a green light by the courts March 1st is the time that is supposed to come back. The housing levy has been going around for public participation. Hopefully it came to your town or your local area or ward and you did participate on it. They have to look at it. But top of that as well is that NATCO report that was tabled in November last year, a report that was talking about the reconstitution of IEBC. But just before we begin that, because that's going to be part of the show, the EACC boss was speaking yesterday. And that's a clip that we started with the show this morning. Since I do have Prof and Mr. Githaiga in the studio, it's good for them to weigh in on exactly what he was saying. Sheila, if you can actually give us that clip then this morning for them to have a look at it so that we can talk about it as we open up to what is a priority as the members of parliament then come back to the National House today. Let's take a look.
The people we have elected in counties and whatever, it's open that some counties are less corrupt than others. And I'll give you a good example. I'll just give you one county then, because I'm not campaigning for anybody. I've been to Kisumu County, a very accountable county by Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. But there are some counties, they have issues. And if you look at the key reason, is that muliachagua viongozi mbaya. Nguruwe anajikanga na? Bas, sasa nyinyi mnajikanga na mafuta yenu. You went and voted for some funny guys, and then you are complaining the EACC is not working. We cannot be everywhere. This is a country of 55 million people. So if you want us to monitor and supervise every Kenyan for corruption, they will need a workforce of 55 million EACC strength.
That's it. That's the boss speaking, Prof. He's saying, well, from where he said it, Wakenya tulijikanga na mafuta yetu. So we're roasting in our sins. That if you look at the officials that we chose in other counties, in his own observation, it's because we chose them. And we had the right to choose the correct leaders, but we didn't. And he's saying, I can't be everywhere. Yeah. So, roast in your own oil. Yeah. And that's the Kiswahili translation of that particular phrase. Yeah. Is it right to say so? As the EACC boss?
Well, he's right in many ways, because if you look at the people we elected who are holding key institutions,
yes,
they have power, and therefore it's difficult for EACC to penetrate through those powers. Remember, who appoints even the chairperson of the EACC? In Parliament, when you take any petition or any bill that you need to go through, look at the passing of the Finance Act, look at all those things, is more or less whom we elected. And one way I would say the EACC needs to play a role. On the other side also, we can actually blame Kenyans, because we cannot put all blames in Kenya. The level of political awareness in this country is still very low. And even if you look at why people follow our leaders, it's amazing. Because I was actually talking to my friends that what we lack in this country is called purposeful leadership. Purposeful leadership, you tell me which purpose any leader you know in Kenya has that makes people follow him. Zero. Why do people follow Raila? Enigma, isn't it? Why do people follow Kalonzo? Because he has been there for a long time, so people know him. Why do people follow William Ruto? You tell me if there's any purpose that he goes. I'm thinking that to move away this what called populist politics, when we are very populist and we elect people based on populism, then we cannot get what we want as a country. When we choose purposeful leaders, for example, what do I mean? When you talk about Barack Obama, there is something he stood for. When you talk about, for example, people like Donald Trump, there were some things he was actually driving, though you may not like, but he had an ideology very clear.
Yes.
And purpose leadership, for example, if Fred Ogola comes and says, I'm running for president, my work will be health security, food security, and education security. And I have a clear policy around that. You don't have to follow me just by being a follower, but you follow my purpose, and by extension, you are able to like me and vote for me.
Yes.
But if you look at these leaders, do you really know exactly what was Azimio's purpose to run? Look at what's happening in the country. I hear that with the meeting between Ndindi Njoro and Rigathi Gachagua in Nyeri, kingpinship has been cemented, isn't it? What's that? What's purpose is kingpinship? Are you seeing any purpose around that leadership? I don't see it. The other time I saw ODM MP saying that Raila is still young, he can still run the 6th time, he has a better chance, and his party is stronger, isn't it? Are you seeing any purpose? Are you saying if Raila runs, everybody will have free health care? If Raila runs, we shall be able to get free education. If Raila runs, there will be food security. You know why even Raila is going to have a challenge? Should even he think about supporting Kalonzo Musyoka the way I'm hearing people saying?
Yes.
Because why will, love cannot be transferred if people follow you just for you. For example, Simba, maybe the guy here, if your wife loves you for how you look, isn't it? Or for how you talk, or even how you walk, do you know you cannot transfer that love to me? Because, for example, you tell your wife that you have been a nice woman to me, but Professor is a good guy. Can you take him? Do you think your wife will say you must be mad because you cannot transfer? But if, for example, me and you have a certain ideology, you understand? Even your girlfriend's girlfriend may like me because of our ideology. But here, if there's no ideology, there's no purpose, you cannot transfer that. That's why if you see CCM in Uganda, there's something they stand for. So when someone says, let us support so-and-so, they support that person who is inside CCM for that purpose. Go to UK, you have Labour Party. We have Conservative Party, they stand for something. You go to Democrats in the US, you go to Republican in the US as well. So what we stand for, that lack of purpose is the reason why the ESCC director is saying, we elected a few things. Tell me which governor that you could identify with this purpose. When I was in Mombasa, for Joho to become governor, he used to have 3 manifestos. One was, Mombasa is ODM, isn't it? Then, Mombasa, our leader is Raila Amolo Odinga. That is the manifesto, and they get elected. Abdul Swamar said the other day, Raila will be the candidate, isn't it? Do you know how many people now would like to vote for him just because of that? But what is Abdul Swamar's purpose for Mombasa people? Someone who tried to craft what he wanted to do was, for example, Alfred Mutua, who was in Machakos. You could see what he wanted to do. When you come to Nairobi, you look at our brother here, Sakaja, who is a friend of my brother here, Githaiga. He said, I want Nairobi to work, isn't it? Well, if that happened, you could say, anybody who has been groomed by Sakaja, I can vote for. You understand? So how do you vote for Raila, somebody whom Raila has groomed, if Raila had no clear purpose like that? If Kibaki came and talked about, did the economy where he did, anybody who was groomed by Kibaki, you might vote for him because they share an ideology. Look, that's why political parties die. That's why you find even the emergence of independent political parties. You go to every county, every ward, manifestos are just funny. Like if you go to you go to Siaya, Orengo says in Luo called Nyalore, which came from azimio thing, inawezekana. So nini inawezekana in Siaya? I look around. Siaya looks like a desert. No, I'm seriously speaking. If you have ever driven to Siaya town, you cannot identify this the CBD.
Yes.
I get confused. Where is Siaya town? You can't get it. But it is inawezekana. Nini hiyo inawezekana. So I'm trying to say, in short, to brief, I think Kenyans are being educated by the ESCC director. Let us look for purpose leadership. When you have purposeful leadership, you move away from populism and what's called copy-paste leadership, whereby someone just picks a word, it trends. Sloganeering, like the Kenya Kwanza came out with the issue of bottom-up, isn't it? The issue of the hustler narrative, isn't it? But then what was the purpose of this hustler? You want to convert Kenyans to hustlers. So I'm trying to say, then we must go back and say, how are we going to elect leaders in 2027? That's what you're trying to say. Will we go for popular leaders rather than leaders who have purpose that can drive us from one point to the other?
Mr. Githaiga, at this point, just before you jump in, I want to recognize the presence of Juan Fanyamambo. How are you doing, sir?
Very good morning to you.
Happy to have you around. We're looking at the clip of the ESCC boss telling Kenyans, shaurieni bwana. You have a chance to pick good leaders, you pick corrupt leaders, now you're crying back to us to help you when you should have helped yourselves. Coming from the ESCC boss, is that what we should get from him as a boss?
Immediately. I mean, bro, the ESCC boss is on point.
Yes.
And this is what I like what he said, because you see, he takes out the blame from William Samoei Ruto, because what has been happening before, there's been a lot of political interference with the ESCC. And I think I've mentioned here in this show before that it's so easy to accuse William Ruto of corruption, yet he's not the one mandated to fight it. There are people like EACC, which is an independent constitutional commission, right, that has the mandate to ensure that corruption is fought. He's also saying that as a reality, we are the ones as Kenyans who elect corrupt leaders. So it falls upon us to do what? To now think about even the next election as we go. Wait, because we are supposed to assist. You know, he's making a call. He's making a call to Kenyans. I mean, this is such a sincere CEO. He's speaking to us Kenyans and saying, Kenyans, we need to unite against this fight on corruption so that we can overcome it. And one of the things is we need to have, when you go and vote, look at the leaders you're voting for. And I like what my brother was talking about earlier. You know, we come up with all these slogans and people evade. You know, we as electorate don't have time to interrogate, whether it's, like he said, Orengo, whether it's whichever leader. We don't have time to look at their track record. What have they done in the past? How have they affected? What social impacts have they had? But what we have is leaders bribing their way through. So we are calling upon the new generation leaders, like the leaders who are on this table today, including yourself, to now assist the EACC with ideas and means for them to be able to tackle corruption. Because one of the things as a patriot we're supposed to do is not keep complaining, but offer solutions. And one of the solutions that he's offering is that the fight on corruption has to begin with us.
Does it?
Yes. So he's one person, I believe, this time round, and even with Bishop Oginda. With those two people there, trust me, if you're corrupt in this government, these people will deal with you.
That's fine.
Yes.
Well, good. But just before I cross over to Fanya Mambo, he completely removes himself out of the question. Says, well, we can't be everywhere as the ACC. We can't be. And he said that if you want us to be, then we want to ask for a workforce of 55 million people. You want us to be everywhere.
I think that's like more of like an African elder trying to speak in a hidden language. It's not literal like what he's saying. He's saying, look, if we need to fight the war on corruption, we need to increase the budget of EACC so that they can have more trained officers who can then tackle. Secondly, we have a bulk of cases which are stuck, right? Even the EACC itself is stuck, because they have taken cases to the court, and the court has therefore delayed the process. The process has taken too long. You can see the other day the case of Mike Mbuvisonko. It took how many years for him to be, told that he's innocent, or maybe he's innocent, so that, not maybe, they said there was not sufficient evidence. So what he's trying to say is that we need to have a sincere discussion about the war on corruption, so that we are able to tackle it as a country. And I want to reiterate what even the president himself said. And you've seen even all presidents who have come, everybody always comes with a strategy for war on corruption. You remember even Patrice Lumumba, who is going around Africa as a Pan-Africanist today and saying this and that. He was once the chairperson of the Anti-Corruption Commission. And later on, maybe he was accused for something ABCD. It's not the discussion for today. But I trust in the CEO making a call to Kenyans to awaken their consciousness, even political choices, having ramifications on our economy. Because the biggest detriment to Kenya's attainment of even Vision 2030, of even a bottom-up agenda, is corruption. Because corruption is systemic, right? It starts from the bottom going to the top. Like you drive on the highway, the policeman, he's not going, the traffic police, he's not arresting you to caution you. Like, hey, go and fix that lamp. He's arresting you so that he can get something from you.
Would have you wanted to get some sort of, I'll be coming to back because there's an entire conversation on this one. Yes, Fanya Mambo, yes, it can be everywhere, we do understand. But would have you liked to get some sort of hope from him, saying, well, I know we can't be everywhere, but we are going to try as much as we can. The only thing he said is that, bwana, hiyo ni shida yenu, mnajikaranga kwa mafuta yenu wenyewe.
Thank you very much. I think he said everything he needed to say other than the most important thing. Because he started by telling us how we elected bad leaders who are corrupt and they are doing all the wrong things. But he also forgot to tell us that even him, he's a wrong appointee who is incapable and not able to do his work. He's completely and totally not supposed to be in that office in the first place. He's just like the bad leaders we elected that then appoint them to those places. Because bad leaders then, if he's saying we elected bad leaders appoint wrong people to parastatals and boards and everything. Then we end up having the likes of himself telling us on national TV and we need 55 million people to help them fight corruption. He should go home. Should have resigned yesterday. You see, let me tell you.
Yes.
What these people are devoid of is ideas, and probably not ideas, even the brains themselves. Like now, the government of Kenya is the only institution that when I'm buying a biro at 30 shillings, they buy it for 200, 300 shillings. One of the first ways to fight corruption in this country, and I've always said, is to come up with a bill that sets the maximums at which government can buy anything.
Yes.
I am telling you, the printing paper, the rim that we were buying for our children at 700 shillings per rim when they were going back to school, government buys the same rim from every other person at 3,000 shillings. When Land Rovers used to be 3 million, government was buying them at 12 million. So this government does not know the price tag. It's like going to a supermarket and everybody is buying water for 25 shillings the half liter, and then you insist you want to buy at 175 shillings. If we were to set price limits as to how much money government can spend on every item, and we itemize them, corruption would come to an end in this country. Wastage of public resources would come to an end in this. Because if I'm going to buy a biro at 25 shillings and sell to government at 30 shillings, I don't want that tender. And that nonsense will end. I have always said I wish I was in parliament today. I would come up with a bill on pre-qualification of manufacturers, not pre-qualification of suppliers. Because for as long as you pre-qualify suppliers, there will be men and women buying things from China and bringing here because they look for the cheapest. But when you pre-qualify manufacturers, what will happen? I have seen someone who supplies cooking oil to our military. And this person buys that cooking oil from Bidco or from these other companies that are selling cooking oil and sells for 3, 4, 5 times. As if government does not know where the manufacturers of cooking oil in this country are. So I keep saying, if we pre-qualify manufacturers,
yes,
and government says we are only going to buy from manufacturers who manufacture in Kenya, every other fool who is going to import things in containers and then buying a Range Rover will stop and go and create a factory. If government says that we are only going to pre-qualify for toothpicks that are manufactured in Kenya, and we are not going to use toothpicks that are imported, what will happen? These people will sell their V8s and Range Rovers and come up with toothpick manufacturing factories. It is that simple. So the EACC guy is incapable of thinking, he's incapable of having a brain, he should not be in office because we have the wrong people in office. But I'll tell you this, how did we get to electing the wrong leaders?
That's where he is, and he's telling Kenya as well, you're the people who did that.
But you also need to understand who Kenyans are.
Yeah.
In 1992, there was a gentleman who was up in arms in Ford trying to fight so much for the liberation of this country. And there was another one who had formed a moribund youth organization called Youth for KANU 92. And their work, was beating people who were not supporting the KANU agenda. And after that, Kenyans would go and elect. In fact, during that election, the progressive person, Raila Amolo Odinga, was not elected in 92. But the person who was beating other people was elected in 1992.
Yes.
In the oppressive KANU regime to become a member of parliament for the first time and continued for 5 years. 1997 would come. And one progressive Raila Amolo Odinga would vie on an NDP ticket, trying to oust that Moi regime. But this other person would vie on that very KANU ticket and continue with the KANU hegemony for another 5 years, oppressing Kenyans. Then what happens? Kenyans still vote for these oppressive people. In 2002, the two went separate ways. Come 2007, one of these persons would find their names on the list of most wanted at ICC, and they have to defend themselves for that. Well, the court exonerated them, but the verdict was out there in the mouths of Kenyans, and the people had their own beliefs about it, which we cannot extricate from their minds. Come 2010, and we are fighting for the 2010 constitution. There is this progressive leader who is telling us we want this constitution, we want devolution, we want, and there's another one leading a no campaign against this constitution that we are having today. And it progresses, and today Kenyans come and make sure that they vote for that person who fought for everything, who fought against everything that Kenyans wanted. Kenyans wanted the 2010 constitution. This person fought against it. Kenyans wanted to remove Moi. He went and formed Youth for Kanu 92 to beat up those people who don't support Moi. Everything that Kenyans wanted, this other person stood in their way, including BBI. And Kenyans have a way of making sure that they reward the person who oppresses them the most. Sijui kama mimi nianze kuchange. I feel like I want to become a very oppressive person who comes and does very horrible things to Kenyans and insults them and does bad things. And I form bad outfit, moribund institutions for beating up youth in Kenya. And finally, I'll probably get more votes than if Obama vied here, and a person who has a beautiful record like Maina Jenga would get more votes in Kenya than Obama. And this is what you need to understand about Kenyans. And I don't know why we have such a high affinity for all the wrong people. And every time we have something good and something bad, we are attracted to the bad thing like a magnet, and we run for it, and we die with it. And we keep saying we want our thief. You remember those words? We want our conman, we want our thief, we want our... And you look at Kenyans and what is wrong with you? Now those people have taken over power. And they have appointed two EACC people like the one we see here telling us we need 55 million people to fight corruption. Just an amendment in the law. When we start pre-qualifying manufacturers and not suppliers, yes, and saying that Kenya is only going to buy from manufacturers, I assure you this country can manufacture anything. And I got to learn that during COVID. When we had a problem with masks, alafu zikakuwa za China hazikuji. Tulianza kutengeneza zingine zinakaa handkerchief, we had upgraded. By the time the COVID was over, we had very beautiful masks that were made in Kenya. Even the packaging was very good. And because Kenyans know Kenyans won't buy something made in Kenya, I remember downtown so many boxes being made as imitations of the Chinese boxes for masks. And then when you open inside, you'd find Kenyan-made masks. All I'm trying to say is Kenya can manufacture anything they put their hearts to. But we need to stop corruption by making sure we are not pre-qualifying suppliers, but manufacturers.
Pretty much. Prof, it was an introduction to whatever it is that we're going to talk about today, because there's so much that we're going to go through today. Sheila, if you can get the clip for Honorable Wamboka ready then, because that's essentially what we're waking up to this morning.
But it's important to make this comment.
Azana, for 15 seconds, can you? Yes.
First of all, Twahir was my student in Strathmore. So when you say he is incompetent, I'm concerned. But nevertheless, I would say that what you have shared about manufacturing, if you look at this book which I've just given Githaiga here, Solomonic Economics, it just talks about that very thing, that we are the ones who have a policy that is actually making brokers, importers, traders to have more value than value adders, because manufacturers are the value adders. And the countries that manufacture like Japan, South Korea, didn't walk the path we are walking. Yet we are walking this path and processing people Singapore, and Singapore never walked this path.
Yes.
So I'm sure that's what you want to talk about. The another thing is that the EACC director is summarizing one thing,
yes,
that corruption begins from the ballot.
Yes.
Why does he say so? How much does it cost to get elected? Ask William RUTO how much money is spent. Ask every MP. Ask your friend the governor. In fact, the constitution is trying to put limit to how much you can spend to be elected. They say Turkana is the largest, around 300 million shillings, because Turkana is so dispersed, you need a chopper to campaign in that area. So if it costs so much to be elected, then corruption begins from the ballot. And it tells Kenyans the best way to do that is here. But also EACC responsibility, like my brother Fanyamambo has said,
yes,
how many people were qualified by EACC to run, yet they are corrupt? Because EACC has a role, isn't it? They have a role that if you want to run for any seat, you must go for clearance from EACC. They cleared even people who have no certificates. Some of them are governors who do not have certificates. So EACC also has something to play. Then the last thing I want to say is, he has said something very interesting there, that he is saying that they cannot go everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he has not told us where are they. You know, if you say I can't go everywhere, you have to tell us where are you now. Because you say I cannot be everywhere. Me, I'm at Lookuptv today, isn't it?
Yeah.
I cannot go to KTN today, but I'm at Lookuptv today. So you cannot go everywhere. Where are you holding? That's a very important question. And if you summarize all this, when you elect leaders who have no social capital, who only have commercial viability, meaning that a leader who is not loved by people, but he'll be loved because of how much money he dishes.
Yes.
Then he'll stay in the office by dishing out money. And in that office, he has to make money to dish out. And that becomes a vicious cycle. So Kenyans, break away from this one if you are serious in 2027. And Kenyans, everyone says they hate corruption. But no one makes an effort, even at the ballot, to eliminate it. So you cannot wait for this election to be, you cannot wait for EFCC to fight for you corruption,
yes,
yet you actually vote it at the ballot.
Pretty much. Guess what, gentlemen? I want us then to table the conversation for this morning. Just a lot that we have to go through. And even as we speak about this, I want you to always go back to the National House chair of National House Business, Ozhon Moses Wetangula, because as we start this morning, there's just a lot of questions that have been brought forward on government projects. There is essentially something about service delivery that is gone into a blackout, and I will tell you what that is. The government wants to centralize government business on the eCitizen platform. Latest one being payment of school fee through eCitizen platform. But even as they come today, Raila Amolo Odinga has already said, look here, I'm going to go back to the streets. Should the committee that was selected by President Dr. William Ruto go right ahead and start those interviews for picking commissioners for IEBC? See, what is going on currently is that that particular commission or that select panel has already started conducting interviews to pick IEBC commissioners. Remember, they gazetted it in 2023. People applied. The only thing they were supposed to do is just go pick up the names and start interviews. Currently, as it is, they've started interviews. But the House is coming back today. At the center of that is Dr. President William Ruto saying, yes, the only thing I may want to talk about is IEBC. The rest of them, as we went to the NATCO report then. And on the other side is Raila Amolo Odinga saying, before you start any other thing about the 2027 elections, let's talk about IEBC. First then, let's look at what Honorable Wamboka is saying about the latest move by the government then to have parents pay school fee via eCitizen. Let's take a look.
Hawa watu wetu wa Bungoma wako na mashida mingi sana. Wakienda kulipa fees, wengi wao wanapeleka maziwa, wengine wanapiga matofali, wanapeleka shule. Wengine mama zetu kwa sababu hawana mbele wala nyuma, wanaenda kufanya kazi kwa shule ili wa convert ikuwe fees ya watoto. Sasa wewe, Mheshimiwa Rais, ukisema it's unstoppable, paka walipe kwa eCitizen fees ya wanafunzi wa shule, na wakati wazazi wanaanza kulia unasema it's unstoppable. Mheshimiwa Rais, wacha kuumiza Wakenya. Wacha kuumiza Wakenya, wacha kuwa na appetite. Wacha kuwa na appetite ya pesa, kila pesa hata ndogo ndogo hata ya shule. Sasa ukisema pesa iende kwa eCitizen, mzazi amelipa eCitizen, amelipa extra shilingi 50 ama 100. Wazazi Kenya hii wako milioni 10. Milioni 10 ukiongeza na shilingi 100, hiyo ni pesa ngapi? Hiyo ni pesa ngapi? Yeah. Your Excellency, stop making money from the poor. Kenya wanaumia. Wakenya wanaumia. Na mimi nikiwa hapa, mimi ni chairman wa PIC, Education Governance, kamati ya bunge. Hiyo tunaenda kukataa. Hiyo tunaenda kukataa. Tunataka serikali.
You think I'm going to start with you, Prof? Sure. I'll be coming back to you. This was actually this weekend on Sunday. This man was saying, well, I'm part of that committee that is essentially going to draft these motions. We're going to say no. Once we get back to the National House, let's begin with that. And I will give you some of the comments that we've got from Kenyans essentially on this particular issue for eCitizen.
Yes.
Number one, some Kenyans are having to wait for 2 days for their payments on eCitizen to reflect, number one, on car payments, hospital payments, even now lunch payments in various universities. One. Number two, NTSA payments have hit a glitch. Banks cannot process loans using vehicles as assets. And number two, if you can't get a break, some citizens have come in to say their monies have disappeared. They're not getting messages back from the payments. NTV yesterday ran a story about how some patients have gone for 3 days in national hospitals. Case in point, Kenyatta National Hospital. They're waiting for their payments to reflect. Some have to wait up to 3 p.m. for the payments they made the previous day to reflect for them to get treatment in this national hospital. All in the name of centralizing government payments.
Yes.
Should we say no to e-citizen centralization? Because for the very first time, platforms like NTSA, payments like hospital payments are facing this glitch for the very first time in the country. Let's begin with Hon Wamboka before you go on to the rest of the issues on e-citizen.
First of all, thank you very much for hosting us once again. So, on this matter that he was discussing right there with on TV, that you just saw, I think he has a right to air that matter, but he's been too emotional. You know, the e-citizen platform. If you want to tell me there are parents who pay school fees doing other services, it needs to be within the law. You understand? You understand? Those are gaps. If they exist, such means of payment that you can go to a school, yeah, you know, as a reality, if he's saying that, we need to audit. How does that happen? How do you, right? How do you quantify, right, the amount of work that person does so that it can be school fees? He's raising a valid point, but we need to get the reality. Is that what is supposed to be done? And if that is what is happening, that is why you see William Ruto is bringing a centralized system so that we can then cover all the loopholes. Not denying that there might be that parent on the ground. We are not saying all parents are that they don't have school fees to pay. Then there would be no schools. The schools would have closed down, isn't it? There are those who are vulnerable parents. We need to audit that whole system. And that's why you see government is saying we have 435 billion, isn't it? National security doesn't receive that kind of money, yet security is most important. Education receives the hugest chunk of our budget, our national budget.
Yes.
So that is money going into these schools from government. Then there is income, that revenue that comes to the school. That school does not belong to the headmaster or the community. It belongs to the national government of Kenya, according to the law. So it is just changing the system, because the system we've had from before, Professor, you can agree with me, has had too many loopholes. For example, if you go to many schools, you'll get a lot of parents complaining to the government. I agree with the people complaining about e-citizens, but then you'll find there are hidden charges that are not supposed to be charged on parents in school. You understand? Who is able to audit that money that is taken by the headmaster or the principal of that school, yet in law, by law, according to the Education Act, according to the fee structure that is provided by the Minister of Education, there is a policy paper that is made. A lot of loopholes have been there, and the same parents have been exploited.
When we talk about hidden charges, which charges are this?
No, I'm just saying, for example, you go to a school, you hear there's remedial, there's things that, you know, government says it's already paid the tuition, it's already paid whatever, you know, those the contribution for every school, the quota for every school that is supposed to cater for this. So what I'm trying to say is this, the e-citizen is important, because the e-citizen is bringing us to a digital, a more transparent, a more accountable system, whereby we know this is the revenue. For example, today if you want to pay electricity, you don't pay electricity, you put your account number, isn't it? If you go to e-citizen pay bill number, you put your pay bill number, the 222 number, then you put your account number and your code for your school. All right?
Yes.
So that is then within the system of e-citizen, it centralizes that data and analyzes that data and sets it up according to every school. So every school, you can know, all schools in Kenya, this is amount of money that was received from school A. Okay? So you'll have accountability. All right? You'll know Now, even the next budget, what are we budgeting for? But if you don't even know what is the revenue coming from schools as the national government, then you're asleep. And that is why the education system is struggling. So I support the e-citizen move by government.
Yes.
I know it has challenges, and to be honest, there is nothing that is perfect. Everything has challenges. And I'm sure the Ministry of ICT is upon it. What we should be looking at is where have we moved from e-citizen from the past? In the past,
yes,
the e-citizen,
yes,
1 minute, I'm
yes,
almost finishing, was something that was run as a private enterprise. Today, the e-citizen is run by the national government of Kenya. You know, in January 2023, what happened?
Yes.
ICT Eliud Owalo, minister, they took over e-citizen from the proprietors there before. So all that money, if it's the conveyance fees that the gentleman was talking about, it is not going to someone's pocket. But then it is going to the consolidated fund. So that way, that money is accountable. So I think cartels, cartels like education cartels, they're the ones fighting these things because the Kenyans are being exploited, and what William Samoei Ruto is saying is not, this guy is just exaggerating. He's not trying to force it under. He's saying that now we must have accountability. Why is it that when the president wants to bring accountability, he's being attacked? People now are going to start saying they want to go to the streets because of his citizens. Please give the president time to implement his policy.
Githaiga, I'll be coming back to you because the question that Honorable Wamboka is raising is not essentially on the functionality of e-citizen. He's saying, no, I mean, but we do know very well now that for you to access e-citizen, you gotta pay as well. There is a service charge that you pay for you to access e-citizen, which I'll be coming back to you. The question that has been raised is, are you just trying to get a portal to collect more? Just on that as well, Fanyamambo, Edward, but we're going to come back to it. There's so much time for it as well. Here's a question that he's asking. He's saying, well, why are you changing it if the parents themselves did not complain to you that they're getting overcharged in the schools? Was it ever necessary?
You know, he started by giving the example of Kenya Power.
Yes.
And how you pay for tokens. And I felt worried. I actually wanted to leave my seat and stand up because we don't pay for tokens. We pay taxes. Because when you spend 100 shillings, you get 3 tokens, 3 units, 3 units. So the other 97 shillings goes to taxes. It's unbelievable. And that's what will happen on e-citizen. And I like the way he has said it, that it used to be a private enterprise and then government took it over. And we are happy because since they took it over, now it's taking 3 days for payments to reflect. Since government took it over, it has failed miserably. It has failed completely. People are having problems. You pay in hospital, Kenyatta National Hospital, you have to be kept waiting for a few more days for your payment to reflect so that you can leave the hospital. So I'm glad that everything Kenya Kwanza ever took up failed. And everything they ever laid their hands on failed miserably, including e-citizen that was doing so well. Now there's delays in that e-citizen. Why do they have to take up everything, including what is working? Then they're also creating another problem that is a special problem that we didn't have. Remember, there's a categorization of schools in this country. We have schools that fall squarely within the ambit of the county governments. And we have schools that fall within the ambit of the national government. Now we are creating an unfair scenario where anybody with a child in a national school is paying through e-citizen. Now, the schools run by the county government of Nairobi, because devolution meant that county governments are actually governments. So a school run by the county government of Nairobi under Sakaja also has to have their people paying the money to e-citizen, which is going to national government. Is that fair? Why do we have some Kenyans paying school fees now on a different platform? My child, for example, if was going to a school like, say, Milimani here, or State House Primary, or whichever primary, and they were going to that school and it was under the county, we've been paying through the county. Then say my son is called to Alliance, or Mangu, and then I have to start paying to the national government, something that I was paying to the county government. This thing is making absolutely no sense. For a parent who has got 2 children, one in a national school in high school, and they are paying through e-citizen, and another one in a primary school, and they are paying to the county government, or to the school itself directly. Because now the national government cannot come and purport to start doing what is supposed to be done by county governments. I saw them the other day saying they were going to tax animals and cabbages and so on and so forth. And we told them you can't do that because agriculture is totally and completely devolved and only county governments can charge cess. And so the government went quiet on that one because they were going to have a fight with governors. I think this is one thing that opens up a lot of problems for every other person.
Yes.
What this Mheshimiwa is talking about is true. People are not equal in this country. And I can tell you there are schools where a parent comes and says, I'm going to supply you with firewood. It's the only thing I can get. And that parent comes with, and because the school knows how much they buy firewood for, they say, here is the list of the loads of firewood you've brought. It's amounting to 6,000 shillings. If the fees was 7,000, go look for 1,000, you come, you have paid fee. Because the school would have spent money on firewood. Schools, by the way, for those who don't know, are now making githeri for lunch for our children. And there are parents who come from Kitale and every other place and they supply maize to schools. Some supply beans. And then because we know the price per bag, it is quantified. Now you are telling these parents to go and start putting money on e-citizen, and they are not able to do that. So I think we are compromising the ability of people to be able to have education.
Yes.
And it should be accessible to all. The only problem that the government of William Samoei Ruto has is the cabinet. God, I wish he just woke up one morning and listened to me. My president, if you watch this show, just sack your cabinet. Start looking for people who will give you ideas that will generate income for this country. Because I keep telling people, like now, we have not even made money from those things that should make us money. The wild pigs migration comes, gives a lot of money to Tanzania, doesn't give us a lot of money. Because we haven't thought of how else do we make money other than from Wananchi. We have a cabinet that is focused on making every single coin that they can make from Wananchi, from school fees, from e-citizen, from where Wananchi is spending their money. Ukinunua kagari wako na wewe, ukinunua slippers wako na wewe, ukikunywa chai, they tax even tea leaves. Because they have no other idea about how this country can make money. And that's why I'm saying, Mr. President, wherever you are, fire your cabinet in its entirety. Start for looking for people who have brains, people who can tell you the next wild beast migration will be different. If we ever made $1 billion, we will make 7, because this is what we are going to do. If Kenya has got, we have to have people who are thinking of how else Kenya can tap money from other sources without borrowing and without kuumiza mwananchi. And it is possible if you have the right brains in office. But with the current cabinet as it is constituted, they will keep showing him that if you want more money, go for the same mwananchi.
Pretty much. Prof, yes. I mean, top of the agenda when these guys come today is that they will be faced with complaints from Kenyans about how government services are previously used to work because of them being moved to the e-citizen platform and now a complete failure. I mean, gory stories. Right now, transferring your car on the NTSA platform, it's 50-50, might work, might not work. Complaints of people paying on e-citizen and they never get to receive their messages. If you're in a hospital on an emergency basis, you can't prove that you already paid for it because now you've got to pay through the e-citizen platform. Is that something that the members of parliament, just like Honorable Wamboka is saying, they have to go back and as quick as of this week or today say, maybe now, this centralization project by the government has to stop, at least for now?
Yeah, first of all, I will start by stating the following, that for us to understand what's happening with the e-citizens, we need to understand who is William Ruto. William Ruto is somebody who likes everything to be like him. And because that's the person he is, look from the time when he first of all went to parliament. Just look at his journey, even when he was deputy president. He wants everything to look like him. Everything is being renamed. Everything is being done differently. It's like there's no fiscal policy. Either there's no foreign policy. Even how he does his trips, he does it his way. Even how now State House is also being changed. The facade of it is being changed. He wants to change totally everything to look like him. In fact, it is not surprising to me that William Ruto made a very classical speech in Eiffel Towers in the presence of Macron. Do you know the French policy? Assimilation. When the French come to this country, they even change your name. So what I'm trying to tell Kenyans, even we might rename our cities, we might rename ourselves, we might rename everything. We have just started. We are still on a long walk. You know? The 10 years will be a very long, painful walk where things will change. I won't be surprised if they want to change the name of the country. There's nothing to surprise you. He is somebody who wants to assimilate everything to look like him. Look at even the cabinet. Look at the structure of government. Just compare Uhuru's administration, Kibaki's administration. Everything is totally different. But it tries to look like Moi's now. Let's look like Moi. You know, he was a student of Moi. People say that RUTO was Raila's a student of Raila. I don't think so. Because just the fact they work with Raila does not mean they were a student of Raila. A student of somebody means you follow his kind of philosophy. Raila Odinga is not the person who wants things to look like him as such. But also he has his own flaws, which I don't want to go to. Nevertheless, what I'm trying to say, William Ruto wants everything to look like him. And this is why everything, this after East, there's another battle. Look, Finance Act. The battles are too many. My advice to him, including the one that Fanyamambo has done, as a professor of decision making, see, but there's something we call make decisions in your sphere of control. Like now, if you're at home and you go home and maybe your wife does not talk to you, isn't it?
Yes.
You cannot say, me, I won't talk to her until she talks to me. You won't say, I won't love her until she loves me. You choose what you can. Just have her coffee. Just prepare coffee and tell her, sweetheart, have coffee. That is, you don't have to consult anybody. But if you're asking that we need to hold hands as we walk and laugh, that may not happen because she cannot laugh when you want her to laugh. It is hard to decide whether she wants to laugh or not. But you can decide to serve her coffee. She can reject to take coffee. So the second advice I'm giving him, there's a book called The One Thing. The one thing means choose one thing that you'll do right. Even you can also talk to your friend Sakaja.
Yes.
Nairobi needs to work, but not everything will work. Choose one thing that you'll do. For example, Simba, what you can do is that you can decide to become a smart person. Do you know you can succeed? People can remember you for being the smartest dressed person. I'm sure in your high school, was it Cardinal Tunga?
Rapogi High School.
Rapogi High School.
Yes.
There's something people remember you. The one thing about Simba is what? The one thing about Fanyamambo is what? The one thing about Gidaga is what? What is the one thing about William Ruto?
Might it be centralization of government payment systems?
No. Actually, that is just part of the whole thing. The one thing people remember William Ruto is the
international trips.
Well, but the issue here is personalizing things. Like the trips are about him, the deals he's making.
Yes.
He doesn't meet deals since he went. Tell me that big deal Kenya has got as Kenya rather than him getting them. So everything is personalization. I would think for me that's what I'll take it. Assimilation, personalization of everything. Now, if you leave that aside,
yes,
let me go to your main question. Linda Jami, where I'm a leader, also went to court. Our petition was registered yesterday. I can even give you the case number. The main thing we're challenging that William Ruto is not aware in his government is that he does not know Kenyans. Why he does not know Kenyans? What Mheshimiwa said there is key. People do barter trade. Kenyans are still doing barter trade. Even nowadays, when people borrow you money, they tell you, let me come and work for you. Sometimes my household tells me, Professor, now that you gave me this work and you're paying me X amount of money, why don't I do this work that normally someone come to do weekly? I can also do for you weekly cleaning, then you can add me money. Or my child wants school fees, what can I do? So people are looking to sell something because there's a lot of idle capacity in people.
Yes.
That's why you go work in a school, you sweep a school, you do that. Even
is that the gap that we need to address, just like Edward was saying?
Yes. Then the most important thing is that the internet penetration in Kenya is 32%. Because the e-citizen needs to go through internet, isn't it? Is giving Kenyans a lot of headache because internet is not free. Even if you go to your phone, you have to buy. So forget about the issue of 50 shillings convenience fee. How long do you stay e-citizen to make the payment? You understand me? Until you print. Like now, I met somebody who had gone to Longonot for tourism, and he had paid the fee on e-citizen, and they didn't print that receipt by PesaFlow. So he was told, you can't see this. He gave M-Pesa message. That could not be believed. Now, look here. To print one page is how much? Some places 20 bob, isn't it? Some places 10 bob. Look at all those printing we are doing. Even the environment is not happy because we have to print a receipt. You have to present a printed receipt. All these things are adding cost of government services. Some of them are hidden. You ask, what are the hidden costs? Internet services. You have to buy a bundle to access it. State House has fast internet, which is paid by the state, isn't it? So he thinks everybody's house has free internet paid by the state. So internet penetration is an issue. The second issue also we challenge.
Yes, in a minute, Prof.
Remember,
yes,
the exclusive responsibility of collecting taxes is vested on KRA, and our Fanyamambo, who is a good lawyer, will tell you that's the case, isn't it? Now, when you take e-citizen as government platform and money is being paid to it, and it is outside the KRA, which goes direct to government, you have actually taken away a role which KRA should do. Now, people are wondering, where is this money? The other day they say there are around 315 billion shillings that disappeared on e-citizen. No one knows. Remember that. The PESA flow was funded by some Kenyans who are actually hardworking Kenyans, and then the president actually, I have internal information, asked those Kenyans to give him 30% shares in that company so that they receive their payment, because money was sitting on that wallet. There are so many ethical things. Then last but not least, which I think Mheshimiwa needs to do, which is more important than even opposing that bill.
Yes.
Why is the president driving the agenda of e-citizen? E-citizen generates now 17.5 billion shillings per day is collected through e-government services. Part of that money, the service fees, goes to him in person. There is even a company where they are managing all that. And that money is being used to emasculate parliament. So mark my word, the bill for e-citizen will pass. Why? Is because the same e-citizen generates money that will fly in that house like wind to buy all parliamentarians. And that's why Kenyans need to call for their sovereignty. Making statements in funeral by those Mheshimiwas is a joke. Because they make those statements so they are being called for State House and being in an envelope so that they pass the bill. Bills are passing in parliament in 2 hours. How can 300 members of parliament discuss a bill for 2 hours? You tell me, mathematically, maybe I'm an idiot, but at least practically I can't see it. So for me, the biggest issue is that the e-citizen's money is being used for state capture, but you capture the state by capturing the legislature. That's my main problem.
Guess what, Edward? I want us to go for a tiny breather, because once we come back, Fanyamambo, there's just a lot, again, that the members of parliament have to wake up to. Remember, Kenyans spent a lot of money in taxes to come up with a NATCO report. This is what Jeremiah Kioni said. It's just a growing list of reports that are going to sit at the National House, and they're never going to see the light of the day. Remember, gentlemen, I told you now, once they come back, the chair of National House Bestus Moses Wetangula is on the spot. Raila Amolo Odinga is here threatening to go back the streets should that select committee continue doing the interviews for IEBC. What we do know, they've already started that job. Is Wetangula going to be wise and say, top of the agenda, let's pass those proposals that were passed at the Bomas of Kenya on that particular bill, IEBC, once we come back right here on the morning drafts.
Tuko hapa Kaptara, tunataka kusema asante sana RUTO Foundation kwa mambo mazuri ambayo wameweza kutufanyia leo. Wakaaji wa hapa Kaptara, wakaaji wa hapa Salawa, wakaaji wa hapa Mujukuo, mpaka wakaaji wote ambao wanatoka hapa Baringo County.
Naambia RUTO Foundation asante kwa kazi nzuri wanayofanya. Mungu awabariki.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the RUTO Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Tere, mambo ni mawili, kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
wameomba msamaha, tutampeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa twende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken the front line in transforming lives in the entire country. So far, we have transformed life of over 100,000 people through our programs, which include medical support, youth empowerment, street family program, feeding program, and climate change. Join us today as we transform lives. As we always say, service to humanity is service to God. Save a life, transforming lives.
Under this quote from one Moses Courier is saying that the government is committed to supporting the creative industry and ensuring fair compensation for talented artists. In this regard, Public Service Secretary Moses Courier announced plans to amend the Copyright Act that will streamline the payment of music copyrights and royalties through the eCitizen platform. This, according to him, will eliminate the middlemen and bureaucracy that have plagued the sector for years and ensure that artists receive their rightful dues in a timely and transparent manner. And he says this is a win-win situation for both the government and the artists, as this will foster a culture of innovation, accountability, and respect for intellectual property. Still on eCitizen, you can see, Edward, there's just a general push by the government that any other service that is given by the government should be via the eCitizen platform. But just before one break,
because you see why they're using the eCitizen. Sorry to cut you a bit. Why they're using the eCitizen, I like what Moses Courier just said. For a long time, the artists in Kenya have been exploited. Why? Because of lack of transparency.
Yes.
Whatever is coming in as revenue for the artists, was a hidden matter. It was being managed by private individuals. And this is the same thing that we are saying, even in school fees, and I do understand what my brothers, both of them, being empathetic with Kenyans and understanding the situation of the economy. However, if there needs to be an amendment of the law, let's stick within the law. Let's have even those parents who are on the ground who do not have the school fees to pay. Let's find a way to accommodate such things so that we don't have that happening. However, eCitizen is supposed to bring accountability. And I want to refute what my brother was saying. And I think both of them were trying to point that eCitizen is run by a private company. eCitizen is run by the ICT authority, the IDA. It took over the running of eCitizen. So there is no private individual earning anything. All of that money, the 50 shillings you're saying, is all going to government. And also government has a target of raising 1.5 trillion shillings through the eCitizen. This is money that was just disappearing because there were many loopholes. The other thing I also want to point out is that William Samoei Ruto, unlike what my brothers are saying, maybe they're trying to point out like somebody who just wants his way. William Ruto is a president who is focused and has a track record to show. So William Ruto was in charge as a deputy president of open government, which is a one government policy. So what William Ruto is implementing today is something that he's been consistent with. And that's why it's shaking a lot of ground, because it's going to reform the way things have been done. And because William Ruto, everybody is saying, oh, you're not fighting corruption, you have not defeated corruption, corruption is still going on. And William Ruto said, even when he was in Japan, call me Zakayo, call me what you want to call me, but I must do what is right. Kenya, the money that the Kenyans contribute has to be accounted for. Because in 2027, Kenyans will hold accountable William Samoei Ruto on the ballot and ask him, you collected this revenue, what did you do with it? That's why the centralizations of payments is good, and even going to the issue of Moses Courier with the royalties, that has been a quagmire. So this is going to shake a lot of ground, because cartels, like you said, middlemen, People have been making so much money. I like what my brother talked about earlier concerning the procurement system, whereby we need to look at manufacturers, we need to cut off a few people, because that's where government is losing a lot of money.
Pretty much. Edward, I want you to jump quickly onto the issue now that the members of, there's another issue. I mean, you can see Wamboka is saying that once we get back to the National House, there's centralization drive by the government. We're going to fight it, come up with an e-citizen bill. Good. Number two now, there's another report that the members of parliament are looking at, the NATCO report that was tabled at the National House in November. They're back from recess. Raila Amolo Odinga is saying if that particular committee that was put together by President Dr. William Ruto continues to do their interviews to select IEBC commissioners, we're going to go back to the streets. That essentially leaves the chair of National House, Bestus Moses Wetangula, to make that Solomonic decision and say maybe first on the agenda is that proposals that were agreed on by both sides of the Bomas of Kenya. Is that an item of priority?
Look, 2 minutes. It's an item of priority, and going by what the majority leader said, and even Cheriot, you know, they were both in that committee, the National Dialogue Committee. This will be a national priority even for government, because they have to implement what they said in that report. So the bill is going to come, the report is going to be read, it's going to go through the process that Parliament provides. However, on the matter of threatening to go to the streets because of the IEBC, please, what were these people doing? They had 4 months. I think we've had this discussion before. They had 4 months of having that NADCO discussion, isn't it? Why were they not able, to get those things that they wanted changed at that particular time? Why are they then coming to complain and bring it to the streets again? One, we know what the streets does to Kenya. The economy is already struggling as it is, right? We want to go to the streets because of IEBC selection panel. Aren't those Kenyans who are in that panel? And if we talk about the law, because I know my brother Simba, you're very particular about the law and what the law states, isn't it? Right? So the law states that those selection panel, the selection panel was sworn in, right? Is it a selfish agenda? Maybe Raila Odinga wanted to have his people within that panel. But remember, if we look at it constitutionally and by law, where does that demand by Raila Odinga fall? Raila Odinga has a minority leader. Let him go to Parliament and let this matter be dealt in Parliament. Because that is why we decided to go to NADCO, so that we can come out of the streets. So what, you see, killing the whole NADCO report and saying you're throwing it out because of the IEBC selection panel, what kind of selfishness is that? But give the opportunity to parliamentarians. And I also want to urge, as I finish, as I conclude, the Speaker of the House of Assembly is independent and is third in command in this country, right? As per the status quo. Nobody should intimidate his decision. He has independence of making those decisions, and there are many things that he has to put in place. For example, we need in Parliament for them to discuss about the deployment of Haiti. If there is anything in the law that needs to be changed, let that be brought about.
And that's
Number two,
and that's why I asked about
that's why I'm saying priority. Yes, those things that affect Kenyans.
Do you think the Haiti issue is going to be priority?
It's priority, I can tell you that for sure. The other one is what I'm calling the amendment of Article 89.
That's it.
The amendment of Article 89, which is the amendment of the review of boundaries. We know very well, like we said, there's a timeline. Let me conclude. There's a timeline of 8 to 12 years, and we're already there, 2024. So are we going to fall into a crisis and drown the country into crisis, or are we going to allow the MPs to amend the constitution to give it more time? And I'll give you the reason why they will have to amend it. Because, number one, review 12 months before the general election. So that means, when is the next general election? It's in 2027, right? So we have 2-3 years ahead of us. So we can amend the constitution and push this process so that we avert the violation of the constitution. Because if it gets us and we are time bound, we'll fail. Then thirdly, it does not take effect, even if, you know, maybe there is a fear, brother, like you said. There is a fear that if there is electoral boundaries and there will be changes, some will lose, some will win, they will not take effect in the 2027 election if there is an amendment. And this is the number one thing I would expect, to be the business of the House.
I'll be coming back to you, because on that issue for the amendment of Article 89 as well, and also on the issues of Haiti, there's also a Maisha number, by the way, there's an ID crisis in the country. The Ministry of Immigration, Fanyamamba, was told, you see now, issue the new generation ID cards at a particular point last year when we passed the Maisha number. So there was a change of systems at that immigration department where it was clear that the only thing that we're going to issue were the Maisha numbers. Now, if you had lost an ID and you wanted to go get a replacement, you would essentially qualify to be issued with a Maisha number or the new generation ID card. But that was stopped by the High Court as unconstitutional. We lack a data protection framework in this country. Currently, as we speak, there is 10,000 IDs on a daily basis that the Immigration Department has to issue, and they do not know exactly what to do on that. That for another time. The NATCO report, and I want to read for you an issue here, a quote here from Kimani Ichung'wa. It's a story that we did on lookuptv.co.ke. This is it, that I can't agree more with Judge Mugure Thande. The law has no mechanism of stopping the IEBC recruitment panel. All right, he said, adding that in the same light, the law does not limit the time the panel will take. So, Fanyamamba, from where you're seated, I mean, step in the shoes of the House Speaker, Moses Wetangula. You're coming back and Raila Amolo Odinga is saying, I'm going to go back to the street if that panel essentially continues to carry those interviews. Do you think that the IEBC or the NATCO report then is going to be an issue of priority to you?
Thank you very much. I think, number one, NATCO report has got nothing to do with this. This has got something to do with who chooses the referee for the next match. Because if I can choose the referee for the next match, then I am halfway in. I have won that match.
Yes.
The government needs to come in and do something that makes everybody feel that the referee who is being chosen in a fair way.
Yes.
If it means stopping the process and finding a way to make sure that there is that feeling of fairness, it has to happen. As it sits, we know who constituted that committee.
Yes.
People are unhappy with its constitution. And so if they go ahead and thump their chests and the committees go as goes ahead, you will see. There's a time when Raila Amolo Odinga led protests to say no to IEBC. And IEBC went home. If you remember, the Isaac Hassan led IEBC. They went home. And I see that happening again. And by the way, when you talk of maandamano being a bad thing, I have always said, this government is competing with opposition. Who can ruin the economy more? Maandamano happens, we lose a few billions. Then government comes during times of peace with their insane housing project and displaces 1,000 families in Taita Taveta in the name of affordable housing, or in Gekumari, or in any other place. At times of peace, a government comes and destroys that houses that people own, and we lose billions of shillings, if not trillions. And then they say that maandamano is ruining this economy. This government ruins the economy more than anybody else. Because you come and destroy houses that people have lived in for a very long time, and then you say maandamano does destroy things in this country. The stones that are thrown break a few windows, but bulldozers bring down complete houses. Some of them at nyumba za ghorofa. So I think this government wants to continue enjoying the monopoly of ruining the economy, and they don't want to compete with anybody in that monopoly of ruining the economy. So they are feeling that when Raila goes to the streets, he's going to take their World Cup record of destroying people's property, because that's what they've been doing essentially. And now they have beaten their chests and they have said they are going to destroy more houses because they have said the housing program must continue. And you can see what's happening everywhere. They are destroying houses people have afforded to build what they are calling affordable housing.
Yes.
So that is not fair. Then Section 8, Article 89 of the Constitution, and you talk about amending it.
Yes.
And then we have people talking of a constitutional amendment with members of parliament in mind. That let's not amend because so and so might lose their seat. Who is this mortal being who was born and is serving in one constituency? They can go to heaven. Situlembo mambo ni matatu, and heaven was one of them. Who are you that the whole country will stop discussing its boundaries and delimitation of constituencies because you are going to lose a seat? As who? What are you? Kwani we ni nani ati the whole country now has to stop and start imagining that the reason we have a crisis with boundary delimitation is because there are 5, 6, 7, 20, even 30 Kenyans who lose their seats. Let them lose. Those are not their seats. Those are seats that belong to this country.
Yes.
If we have to amalgamate some constituencies, let us do so. If we have to destroy others and come up with new boundaries, let us do so.
Yes.
But we are not going to continue keeping things as they are, horrible as they may be, because we want to please some individuals. When they were born how many times when the others were being born once? That nonsense will have to stop. We are going to amend the constitution if we have to. We are going to do boundaries delimitation if we have to. And those MPs who feel that they are so special they shouldn't lose a seat, it is not your seat anyway. In fact, you are lucky to have been given that chance to serve.
I'll be coming back to you. There's something that we have to look at all together now. Because I'm going to read for you this particular quote, Prof. Again, it's going to help us essentially think about what is of priority then to the National House. Now, this is a quote that National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah has expressed optimism that once Parliament resumes today, the House will be able to quickly adopt the recommendations of bipartisan talks on the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Prof, you know that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
That the majority leader is saying, well, we're faster, quicker that once we resume, we're going to adopt those proposals. Quickly hear that. And you sort of feel like both sides agreed on it. But then, Prof, you see, the interesting scenario here is that those interviews are currently ongoing. The court ruled, you hear what Judge Thande says, well, we have the power to, rule for the panel to pick up the interviews. What does that leave Moses Wetangula?
What's happening here is that this government, not even this government, the current situation, we are under confusion. Because why we are under confusion, even if you ask me, what is the priority for Parliament? Based on what? Priority.
Prof, I'm sorry also to come on those areas as well. By the way, I should have made this clear. The government is looking at two issues here. Number one, there's a government agenda, development agenda that has been stopped by the courts. And you can look at so many other issues. There's the Haiti case, there's the Maisha number case, there's the housing levy case, there's the sheep case as well, all the way up to the IEBC issue. That there's the government development agenda, and then there are other issues that Kenyans are facing.
So what I'm trying to say, why it's difficult for anyone to choose what's the priority, unless it is opinion. And as a professor of decision making, opinion is the lowest level of knowledge because everybody has one. But there must be something we use against knowing which one is the priority. For example, if we have a national, publicized national plan, for example, Vision 2030, which is cut into quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, we are at quarter 4, what should we be doing? If you look there, you can see the priority. For example, when we were young boys, Simba, there was a priority to know how not to pee in a trouser. That was a priority. If you didn't figure out that one, there was a problem. There was a priority now to walk. There was a priority now to talk. There was a priority to go to school. If you didn't go to school in primary, Simba, we couldn't be here. So we must have a publicized national plan. What we have now, we just have a bunch of slogans and what they call personalized opinions, and that's what driving a country. You cannot drive an important state like Kenya based on people's perception and opinion. For example, Ichung'wah is saying what is important is NADCO. How was NADCO in their manifesto? Which national plan is NADCO? And I can tell you something which is missing that Kenya Kwanza needs to get, and Githaga, you have to bring this clearly to your bosses. Because Moi, with his all evil, he had a manifesto, and he was able to make the manifesto into a national plan. So KANU did it. Then after KANU, we had NAC. Kibaki, with manifesto, he brought the Vision 2030, which now became a nationalized platform. And he used to say, my government do this, my government will do that, isn't it? Now come to you come to Uhuru Kenyatta, he has my administration. Remember, these people have their own terms, isn't it? Which one is really saying? You say, I will do this, I will do that. You see, that's not a head of state. You are leading yourself. You are not leading people. which means these are personal agendas. They are moved from national agendas. So what we are lacking here is, what is the national agenda for Kenya, upon which Kenyans have agreed and participated. Therefore, it informs what Parliament takes as priority. It informs what government takes as priority. For example, affordable housing is not Kenyans' priority. As far as I'm concerned, at least everyone will tell you. That's why when we won that thing in court, Kenyans were celebrating. Because what I'm trying to see here, when I was in court, when I was challenging the house levy, if you look at page 19 of the ruling, which was done under Justice Achode,
yes,
I'm quoted saying that the ruling which was done by High Court was a negative order, that the house levy was unconstitutional, isn't it? Such a ruling is a negative order. Negative order means you don't have to do anything. Like if you look, and Simba, I think you need to come this clearly. Do you know why God in his wisdom, even if I write here in Solomonic economics here, put all the commandments in negative? Do you know why? Start with the first one. Do not worship another God, isn't it? Do not steal. Do not fornicate. Do not admire. Why do you think God put all the commandments in negative? God is the wisest being ever, isn't it? Why he did that was that God simply told you what you need not to do. Look at even the Garden of Eden, isn't it? Do not eat a fruit from the middle, but you can eat any other fruit. So when the house levy was ruled unconstitutional, did not say we don't have to build houses, but you don't build houses by collecting levy, which means you can still build houses. So it's not don't tell me that house levy is a government development priority. No. When I tell you do not fornicate, I don't mean you should not have children. I mean you should have children in a marriage. I mean do not steal. You can still eat, but you do not eat stolen food. You can still work and earn money. So when you look at the lack of national, publicized national plan, it gives them, so Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, which was bottom-up economic agenda, is only a PowerPoint presentation. You see, Vision 2030 with Kibaki was a booklet that Kenyans know, Kenya can recognize, isn't it? Have you seen any booklet written, better, bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which has been published, for example, the Agenda 4, the Big Four? Have you seen those ones anywhere? None. They're just a small PowerPoints which are moving around with the slogans which are meaning nothing to Kenyans. So according to me, the priority for Parliament is what is hurting Kenyans now.
What is
and
hurting Kenyans now, Prof?
Cost of living.
But it's not. But it's
how
not
to go to school?
Yes.
How to pay that school fees?
Yes.
How to go to hospital? How to put food on the table?
Yes.
For young people, how can they can get a job?
Yes.
How can they participate in the political economy of this country? Those are key.
When you look,
look, when you think that when IBC boundaries has not been eliminated, then there's a crisis because someone cannot be a member of parliament. What is a crisis in being a member of parliament?
But there's a crisis. Raila Amolo Odinga is saying, I'm going to go back to the streets.
No, Raila Odinga's crisis is not a national crisis.
It is a national crisis.
A national crisis is that somebody cannot eat and is dying of hunger. A national crisis is Sondu issue where people are dying and being killed, isn't it? A national issue is in Kibera here where a child died on water, and government, all the budget on El Nino, cannot help get that child from Nairobi Dam. That's a crisis for that family. They are traumatized. A national crisis is that somebody is in KNH, cannot pay for healthcare, and is lying on bed being charged and will pay anyway. You are staying longer on bed. The most expensive bed I know is your sick bed.
Are you going to classify Raila Amolo Odinga's issue as a governance crisis again?
No.
Which will be of priority then to Moses Wetangula and the National House?
No, it's positions issue. Because the challenge Raila Odinga is facing is that they lost election with Azimio, and through NADCO, they are trying to find how they can find themselves in this government somehow with positions. Another thing about NADCO is, don't you listen to Ichungwa talking about the issue of IBC. The main thing for government is how Musalia Mudavadi can substantively be a prime secretary, because we are in court. The court might declare that thing unconstitutional, and he might have problems. The main thing is about what the government agenda wants. CDF for members of parliament. Let me tell you, Simba, again, give another prediction. What will pass quickly is Musalia Mudavadi's position. Secondly, CDF for members of parliament. Those other things will come later. And I can tell you what, if you look at election in Kenya, the issue of IBC is created so that Kenyans are stopped from changing the constitution to their favor. That's why they want to do it last minute. That's why there's no IBC. So read what these guys are not saying. Politicians, and I can tell you,
yes,
if a politician tells you
in 20 seconds, Prof.
Yes, they mean maybe. When they say maybe, they mean no. And if they say no, they are not politicians.
Yes.
So if you look at that mindset of a politician, whatever they are telling you is what they want you to hear. But what they want is totally different. And let us understand what is the parliament priority. You'll see them from the order papers. You'll see the order papers will order CDF, the prime secretaries, isn't it? That thing of affordable housing, which is against Kenyans.
Yes.
The issues that Kenyans are saying about cost of living will come later. Remember, I don't talk about cost of living, which is the main thing that Kenyans want. And this parliament is the worst parliament. And what I'm trying to say is there are two coincidences. I'm not somebody who believes in fate. The president was sworn in on 13th of November. Number 13 is not a good number. We are having the 13th parliament. 13th parliament should have never existed. Yeah. We could have moved from 12 to 14. No. We could have moved from 12 to 14. Yes.
Prof, will be coming to you now on that particular issue. Yes.
Significant day.
I want you to weigh in on this issue and quickly at that if you can take it, because I also want Fanyamamba to come in on it. I mean, I say we want to figure what is going to be priority for the National House once they come back. And just like you had me telling Prof, there are issues, if you want to look at them, you can say there's the government's development agenda, the housing bill, the SHIP also has a couple of issues that have to go back. There's the Maisha number as well. There's the Haiti issue as well, plus other issues that are contained within the NATCO report. I mean, Githaiga, I want you to start on IEBC if you can.
Yes.
The courts have ruled on it. The interviews have begun.
Yes.
But then Kimani Ichung'wah is there saying, once we go back, we're going to adopt those proposals and quickly at that. I mean, where do you find yourself as Moses Wetangula? Because if those interviews are done and dusted before you guys come in and intervene this particular process there, and then I was speaking to an analyst yesterday who told me, it has to go back to court again. Because the court ruled and gave powers to a selection panel that is constitutionally appointed by the president. They're done with the interviews, and so the National House comes and says, now we have the framework for doing those interviews. But those interviews would have been done a long time ago. Where do you start as Moses Wetangula? And what is going to be your priority once you come back as the National House?
Definitely. You see, like I said, the priority of this is looking at the law, the Article 89, so that those matters of boundaries, and I would like to also question what mindset they're coming from. We're not doing this for politicians or individuals. It's envisioned in the Constitution that we should have a review of even words, not just constituencies. So therefore, because we're already time bound, time has come to lapse because we're already in 2024. The 12 years are over. So the number one priority of Wetangula should be the amendment of this article so that we avert that constitutional crisis and extend the time, not so that we can save, like they're trying to bring out politicians losing their seat or not. No, so that we can have enough time to give this whole process as per the law. Article 89 provides that the election, the review of the boundaries should take 12 months before election.
General election.
And then it also says that the shall not be effect on the general election coming. So you see, the law provides, the Constitution also provides remedy. So the only thing that Wetangula should focus on is first the amendment of this.
Why would he focus on it, knowing very well that the only thing that needs to happen is for the IEBC Commission to be functional for that to happen?
Exactly.
So why would you not start on the IEBC being functional?
You see, the IEBC has to function within the law.
That's it.
Okay, the IEBC as it is, and that's why we're saying Kimani Ichung'wah is right by saying the report has to be implemented, because one of the recommendations of the report was the reconstitution of the IEBC.
Isn't it?
And Sorry about the justice system.
Yes.
The sword is cuts across. It's a double-edged sword.
That's
Dande, Justice Dande, said that the selection panel should go on. It is not William Samoei Ruto. Hold on.
Does it then make it useless for you to go back and say you're going to implement it?
Look, some parts of that report can be worked on in Parliament.
What is the need of going to talk about it?
It can be worked on in Parliament.
Are you not sharing this?
Wait, hold on. Yes. The part that you see, we have to follow the law.
That's fine.
If the judge has made a judgment and has given power, it was the wish, Prof and my brother. It was the wish of Kimani Ichung'wah, of the NADCO committee, right? To listen, to avert this crisis, to now sit down, post the report.
And somebody fully understands that. Again, I don't want to cut you short for the purpose of this conversation, because we have to look at what the priority is. You see, you're sitting there saying the priority now is for him to come in and amend Article 89. Fine. Everybody understands that because we have had the constitutional crisis. But somebody asked, so if this was as important as they expected it to be, why couldn't he reconvene the House a bit earlier so that they look at these proposals and then pass it as law for the courts not to come and rule before they go back to the House to talk about this?
If you remember very well, last week on this show, last Tuesday, there was a proposal to recall Parliament on the 6th of February.
Guess who did
That's
not?
when we're here.
So guess who did not?
No, obviously, you have to think about the calendar of the parliamentarians. Probably there are some who are still in recess somewhere else. You not manage to get the quorum. But the set date is today, as per the Parliamentary Service Act.
So what are they going to do about it?
No, what I'm saying is this. This matter is priority, like every other matter. There is a housing matter that we also need to look at. There is a Haiti matter that we also need to look at. So let's not bring this discussion because Raila Odinga said he'll go back to the street. There is no fourth arm of government in the street. We have, which is provided by law, is 3 arms of government. The arm of judiciary has spoken on this matter. The executive supported this whole setup of the NADCO report, and even the IBC has been sworn in. And therefore now, the priority of, as per the timeline,
on this particular issue,
Wetangula's number 1 priority is this, so that we avert a constitutional crisis. Because remember, a constitutional crisis can bring down the nation. Can bring a quagmire in law. So you don't want us to dissolve Parliament today because of that.
Please, if you can allow me, I'll be coming back to you. Let me speak to Fanyamambo. Fanyamambo, help us understand. Here's what we're facing now. We go to the streets because of issues around IBC. We say the referee, the player cannot choose the referee. Then we go to the Bombers of Kenya, agree on proposals that are supposed to help us reconvene or refigure our IBC. And both sides agree and true to that. So we say here's a report that we're going to implement. Kimani Ichung'wah was the majority whip in the National House, comes and says, well, once we convene, this thing is going to be done and dusted. The courts rule on it quicker that. Fanyamambo, guess what? A couple of Kenya Kwanza leaders are saying, I'm going to read for you a quote here by one, the COG, Anwai Guru, who says that NADCO report is very important on other issues. But the courts have already ruled on IEBC.
Exactly.
The report is important on other issues as well. So in as much as the Kenya Kwanza side is concerned, you see that issue for IEBC, which was quite integral for us to go to the Bombers of Kenya done and dusted. Tuongelele mambo ingine, lakini siyo issue ya IEBC. Fanyamambo, you as the National House Speaker, what are you going to do about it? Because there's somebody who's telling you, yeah, I'm going to go back to the street. You dare give us those commissioners.
As I said, and I have always told people, we have had things like IPPG, if you remember Mfugamano. There comes a time in the history of a nation when you have to start thinking about those things that are very close to the heart of Kenyans. And when you decide to have a conversation around how to constitute an IEBC without necessarily creating tension, disharmony, and disagreement. Because if we go about these things the way we want to go about them, one part saying NADCO report, the other one, let me tell you, all that Kenyans care is that there be a fair process of electing IEBC.
Yes.
And that process be acceptable across the board. Because I can tell you, whether you do it through sanitizing it through parliament, or you want to read the word of the letter of NADCO to the letter, as long as at some point, and I have seen this happen with Raila Amolo Odinga, as long as at some point he lets them have their way now, that IEBC will probably not even work once it's constituted. And we have seen that happen. And we shall go back to the process again. So let us not have an IEBC that makes some Kenyans feel that they are not part of it. This is a good opportune time for us to ask, wait a minute, is there any other process that can be invoked? Because the will of the people also is part of the law. Is there any other process that can be used at this early stage so that we have an IEBC that is acceptable to everybody? Having said that, we have been talking about Parliament coming back from recess as if it's a very good thing and a very normal thing. Are you aware that these are the highest paid people in this country? And have you asked yourself for how long they have been on recess? And we have been paying them to be on recess. And they'll tell you they've been meeting their constituents, which is a lie, because first they don't want to be seen on the ground. Wataitishwa kakitu na hataki kupeana. Why are we so comfortable with the idea of the highest paid people going on such a long recess and the work they are doing? For example, there's a lot of legislation that is going to affect our lives directly, including this e-citizen maneno that Kenyans are waiting for eagerly to be able to know whether they shall be staying for 3 extra days in a hospital bed. And someone was on recess playing golf, catching, and you know what? Just go and look at their social media handles. The bulk of them have no shame just showing where they were playing golf or where they are, or you follow the handles of their wives on social media. These people were abroad. They were on holiday. They were every other place, and we were paying them. We need to get to a point where Kenyans start asking the hard questions. Yes. Which Kenyans go on recess for that long at their workplace and they are paid? All of us who are paying this parliament can't afford a recess for a week. And we are talking parliament is coming from recess as if it's a very good thing. It's a horrible thing. They should not have been on recess for that long. Or at least if they are going to be on recess for that long, we should not have been paying them to be on recess for that long. But we are okay. The problem I have with this nation is the fact that Kenyans are very comfortable with everything that is floated to them, and they look at it and like, sasa bunge inarudi leo, wametoka recess. But we never ask ourselves, what is this recess? Why are parliamentarians going on recess? How many border riders today can afford to park their piki and go on recess for a month or two and do nothing? Will they even eat in their houses? Sasa sahi tunaambiwa tufinye computer tufinye taptengele itatoa dollars. How many people can afford to go for the period the parliament went and do nothing?
They sleep in Uhuru Park because they have nowhere to go.
Yes.
They just sleep in Uhuru Park.
Yes. So the thing is, let us first not normalize the idea of recess. In fact, now that gives me an idea of going to court and starting to fight this recess process. Because these people go on, sometimes they go for 2 months, sometimes 3 months. They're doing nothing for us, eating our money, and then we pay them for that period. So that has to stop becoming normal and start being said it is abnormal.
Yes.
That the people who have the bulk of the responsibility to pass bills that will change our lives have been playing golf, and we've been paying them for playing golf.
Yes. Let's start running on this particular project of, I don't know when I'm going to even ask you that question. If I remember you saying do not even start celebrating that they're coming back from recess.
Yeah.
You say that we're going to see what the priority is going to be. They're going to come in and pass issues that are essentially touching this particular government in terms of their development agenda, in terms of the housing levy, in terms of the Haiti issue, and then the issue for ratification of the CDF kitty to the members of parliament. You say that they would want to pass it quicker that. But then I also want you to weigh in on the issue of then Kenya Kwanza members, again, who are conflicting on this particular issue for IEBC. If IEBC is going to be an issue for priority for this national house, where are they going to begin from? Knowing very well that the courts have also said that panel that was put in place by Dr. President William RUTO, that the opposition said no to, please go right ahead and start those interviews. When you see Kimani Ichung'wah saying, once we go back to the National House, we're going to adopt those proposals very quickly. But on the other side, you're also hearing the likes of Anne Waiguru saying, well, you know, the courts have ruled on it, so there are other parts in that report that we can focus on. But on this IBC issue, well, it's a done and dusted issue. What does Moses Wetangula have to do on this particular issue for IBC? And is it ever a priority?
You see, Simba, if you understand this, for me, the only people who have a right to choose what is the priority in NADCO report is Azimio. Why am I trying to say so? Did Kenya Kwanza go to the street so that we get NADCO? No. In fact, they said it was not necessary. So how comes now that the ones who have very urgent issues in NADCO? Don't you see this is hypocrisy? Because Raila Odinga stood against all odds by saying, let's go to the street.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do that. We went for it, we paid dearly. And he came with the terms of what he wanted to be addressed.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, when we had gone to the street, what Raila says is a priority, Kenya Kwanza says is not the priority. So the person who should tell us the priority, and I'm sorry to say this, you may not like Raila Odinga for many reasons, but on this one, no, for us at Linda Jamii, we are partisan to truth. So the truth is Raila Odinga who championed all Azimio, who went through tear gas, who was pour water with water cannons, who risked his life with some bullets, that should tell us why did he risk his life for this. It is Azimio that actually should dictate the priority in NADCO.
Yes.
Because it is them. If they didn't go to the city, where could NADCO come from? William Ruto, Ichung'wah, Moses Wetangula, all of them are quoted saying there is no need, they are going forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, how comes now it is them now who even want to dictate the priority? Will it be fair that if your wife tells you, Simba, I'm not happy, let's go for dinner, to air out issues, isn't it? Now at dinner, you are the one who has priority for this dinner. Is it fair? If your children tells you, Daddy, kuna mambo hapa going on badly, wacha tukae chini. Then when we sit down, you are the one now dictating. My father taught me something. You know, we're 11 kids, and whenever my mother would challenge something he's doing, or any of the family members would say, he will not chair the meeting. He will say, I now release myself and appoint my elder brother or sometimes my elder sister to chair the family meeting because you are conflicted.
Yes.
If we are the one now being questioned. The most laughing thing about Moses Wetangula, when does the government go to court against the government? Like, you are going to court to stop the government from doing what it's doing. Who is the government? Is he not the head of government? According to me, I can read only hypocrisy and tactical delays and confusion.
Yes.
So that the government, the parliament and the courts are busy wasting a lot of judicial time for Moses Wetangula. And being a lawyer, he knows that you can actually keep judiciary busy with nothing. And I'm asking the judge concerned to rule out that thing because it's actually wasting judicial time. Because if you look at the main reasons why we went to the street and what remains hurting and why Kenyans going to the street, also you can say everybody went to the street for different reasons. Some people went to steal, isn't it? Some people went to the street because Raila said whatever they said, reason he doesn't know. Some people went because of cost of living. Some people went because of IBC. So can we also get the Kenyans who went to the street to ask them what should be addressed first? They'll tell you cost of fuel, cost of unga. They tell you the issue of access to education. Because as we speak now, education in Kenya is in shambles. And I can tell Kenyans listening to me, junior secondary school is inside a primary school. The people you should teaching should be people who are master holders, isn't it? Junior secondary. But now they're being taught by, they are under a P1 teacher who is the head. No, a head teacher for primary is a P1 teacher, isn't it? How can you be able to head graduates inside P1? Then two, I've gone to schools, a lot of them, mostly in Luo Nyanza, not because of anything, but you know, naturally I can reach out and speak my language to them. The school, I can even call its name called Siranga. I found out that there are only 2 teachers in that junior secondary school, and none of them knows even the curriculum. You can even find that if you are having 7 subjects under junior secondary school, being taught by 2 teachers, you cannot tell me the 2 teachers know 7 subjects. So you may find, for example, there are some things they are doing, for example, atomic structure and bonding.
Yes.
Simba, you did that in Form 3, isn't it? It's being done in junior secondary. Are you seeing the confusion? Could you be able to part yourself atomic structure and bonding, put your head around it when you are in your 6th, 7th grade? It was impossible. Now they are learning it. They are reading St. Luke. What I'm trying to see, the priority for Kenyans is fix their life, because these are people's representative. And I think that according to me now, Fanya Mambo, there should be a need to ask Kenya in the survey, what should Parliament debating? This happens in the US, it happens in the UK. What should be the government priority at the moment?
For them to get priority.
To get priority. Because you cannot sit down and believe that Ichung'wa knows what priority is. Ichung'wa is living in lagas of state protection. In fact, I agree with the issue of recess. Recessing what? Because what are you recessing? They were always on top of cars. They are always on funerals. They are on public barazas. In fact, the people who need to go to recess now is the executive, the CS and the PS. They are actually been campaigning since they got to office. They need to get recess from campaign and go to the office and work. Because they have been, and Simba have done statistics.
Yes.
If you go to any office of the PS, CS, and all those directors, they are not there. They cannot get them in office. That you find them in a baraza, they said this. In a funeral, they said that. They have been put as campaign managers for Kenya Kwanza instead of working. So the people who need recess most is the executive, so that they stop campaigning. William Ruto needs to get recess from foreign trips so that he stops campaigning and get back to his office. I don't think he knows how the cup of tea looks like in the office of the president. Yes. I think it needs for us to focus on working for Kenyans, so that when you are recess, we know what to make. And they ask you, when Parliament on recess, can you tell me one thing Parliament delivered in the previous sessions that they are doing recess about? Because if you are doing recess, for example, Simba, if Lookuptv says, today you can go recess tomorrow. So you see, you have championed a very good Kenyan national conversation, which is among the leading conversations in the country. I can see viewers texting me and telling me, you know Simba? I say, yes, I know him. Look at that, you can go on recess. But Parliament, what were they doing in Parliament? They are going recess about. Can you do recess after delivering nothing? Then recess also, you're doing nothing during recess. So this is a psychophancy, which is what has come to our leadership.
Kedega.
Yeah.
I want to give you 2 minutes as we now start to get out of the studio this morning.
Sure.
That when it comes to priority, it has to be the leader now of National House business, Osmosis Rectangular. And in one way or another, you put him as bipartisan with the government agenda. So when it comes to priority, we're going to see issues that are very close to the government administration hearts. That is the housing levy, issues around SHIV, issues around Haiti, issues around Maisha number and all that, other than issues that the opposition really wants addressed. The NATCO report, just like Prof is saying. I mean, NATCO report is an azimio report, essentially, enabled report, sorry. And issue about IEBC, it's the Azimio coalition that wants IEBC selection panel reconstituted. It's not the Kenya Kwanza government. So when it comes to priority, we're going to see the issues that the government wants addressed, as opposed to issues of the opposition side.
You know, what Fanyamambo was saying that, and even Ogala was saying about Raila Odinga is true.
Yes.
But this quasi-judicial extra, I don't know what to call it.
Yes.
Street threats, street this, street that. This is the exact reason why we are in these problems today.
But that's the only hold on. You guys get.
No, hold on. Because this street thing is nowhere in the law. Like, okay, look, you take a petition, isn't it? That's Article 37. Hold on, you take a petition to wherever. You go, you do a demonstration. Sawa. You present your case. That is what Article 47 dictates, isn't it? However, when we come to these street issues, it's like a roadside discussion. It's outside the law. And that's why we keep going back, because when we select these people outside the law, we keep going back to the streets again. And that is what Raila Odinga has taught Kenyans. that if you want something, you need to go to the streets. What we are saying is this. Currently, and that's why I'm holding this placard. Currently, it's called the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2699 concerning Haiti. We know that Kenya's position is known globally for peacekeeping. And Wetangula should quickly make those amendments
as a priority.
Because
like once they come back
immediately.
Are you going to be happy if that is issue number one?
Yes, issue number one for me. I am
the
Chief Inspiration Officer for Africa for Haiti. And we want the issue of security and stability of Haiti to be restored. So therefore, our interest as Africa for Haiti is to ensure that the international treaties that Kenya has signed, you know the law, any international treaty that Kenya has signed has to be ratified in Kenya, which it was done. However, the courts of law came up and pointed out certain gaps. And those gaps, because National Assembly, the number one priority of National Assembly is to make laws, which these laws then get implemented. So our number one priority, apart from the NADCO report and the amendment of Article 89, is also looking at the deployment of police.
How many Kenyans would want that to be a priority?
No, you see,
I want you to talk to me from that perspective.
You see, what we are saying is this. We have signed an international treaty.
Fine,
or we've committed to take our troops.
Fine, be it what it is.
Therefore, we have obligation internationally.
But on the basis of priority, the House...
That's what I said. I've already told you my number one priority is Article 89, amendments for averting the crisis on the review of boundaries and the IBC. Then number two is the NADCO report, those other issues which can be implemented. Because already the courts of law, and that is why I'm wondering, you, even yourself, my good gentleman,
I'm out of it.
No,
I just want to get answers
you guys are always.
I just want to get answers from you.
Whenever there is any judicial outcome that is anti-government, you always fight it down here. But today, because Dande came up and said that the selection committee should go on, that is within the law. If the judge has seen it is legal, who is Raila Odinga to break the law? Let Raila Odinga defy that.
We have 4 minutes left on this. I want to give it to Fanya Mambo. But Githiga, just before I give him the 3 minutes that I left on this show. Githiga, speak openly on the issues that majority of Kenyans, and I know you're in touch with the majority of them. The House has been on recess for 2.5 months. Speak openly on what Kenyans would want them to pick on today. Do you think Haiti is going to be number one or number two?
You see, according to government business, you know, it's
priority.
According to what? No, I'm just saying, according to government, and what I know will happen. However, there are those things, and I would like to support my brother on the cost of living.
Could you answer my question?
On the cost of living, government also, no, a parliament needs to look at these matters. Kenyans are complaining everywhere, the cost of living. And also, they need to look at the other factors of external factors that make our economy go down. For example, the rate of the dollar. How can we come up with a law that can manage the dollar so that the dollar does not affect our economy?
That's it. I'll be coming back to you. Fanyamambo, if you still not got an answer from me, I'll be coming back to you as well. Fanyamambo, if you can take 2.5 minutes on this particular issue. Fanyamambo, what is going to be priority? Fanyamambo. I give you a mission of Fanyamambo.
I don't know whether I'm the only Kenyan who is listening to a Kenya Kwanza adherent telling us about how we are going to follow the law in the appointment of IEBC, yet their leader has said on national TV that he's going to disobey court orders and continue with construction of houses and all his agenda. You cannot on one side of the mouth speak about the rule of law if you have intentions of disobeying court orders and not following the rule of law. If on one side you say mpende musipende, I will do this, yet the court has spoken against it, please do not have a problem with Raila Amolo Odinga saying mpende musipende mambo ya IEBC. That mpende musipende attitude and way of doing things is going to permeate in this country, because the leader of this nation said mpende musipende. Raila will follow and say mpende musipende. And a Kenyan will meet with a policeman and he'll be told you don't have one signal on the right. He will say nitaendesha mpende, msipende. And somebody will go and kill his wife, God forbid, and he'll be told he'll go to jail, he'll say mpende, msipende. When you create impunity against the law, it permeates all the way down.
Yes.
And every other Kenyan will come and do something wrong. He'll slap you in the face and he'll say, what am I going to do? And he'll tell you, mpende, msipende, I don't obey court orders. He'll be summoned to court. He will say, I'm not coming to court. He'll be called by the OCS to record a statement. He will say, I'm not coming. I don't follow the law. It is very dangerous to start a precedent as the leader of government where you say, I will not follow the law, because Kenyans will follow you, and Kenyans are very good at following. Now, there was this other thing about Haiti. It's a very sad and unfortunate place to be.
Yes.
And let me tell you.
In a minute, Fanya Mama.
In just 1 minute.
Yes.
You've seen every time there's Olympics. Do our government ministers struggle to go there? Do they carry, have we seen stories of people being said they have carried their girlfriends and brothers and sisters and family? Because it's a very pleasurable thing. When the World Cup comes, we saw the whole of government and so many other people going to attend World Cup. Yes. I am begging the Kenya Kwanza administration to accompany our young policemen when they are going to Haiti, because it's a beautiful thing. The way they have been going to Olympics, the way the ministers have been going to all those international conventions in their drones, the way we have been told people have carried their girlfriends. For the first time, we shall give you the blessings to go to Haiti. If all of you will carry your families, your girlfriends, your sisters, your brothers, to accompany our policemen the same way you go to Olympics. No, it is true. Because if we hear there's a conference going today, I can tell you in New York, you know who the priorities are. Now, we want those people who have been priority, those people who have been taken to those government delegations, to be the first ones to accompany our young policemen when they are going to Haiti, because it's a pleasurable place to be. Please. Number two, and I'm finishing on the same thing. Number two, and I'm finishing. Look at our insecurity. Look at where we are. No, look at where we are. Surely, do you think that with our state of security as we are as a nation, we have got the ability to take away 1,000 young men from our midst? Already, mimi naambia huyu Gethaiga huyu aingia hapa barabara aanze kuongea na simu, aone vile bodaboda itamfanya. And he's saying that already with our security challenges it is, we reduce our policemen by another number and take them to Haiti. We shall give you our blessings under one condition. That for every 1,000 policemen we send, 5-10 cabinet secretaries plus their girlfriends and wives and families to accompany them to that pleasurable, happy place called Haiti, the same way they go to international conventions.
My brother, Haiti, just 1 second. That's 15 seconds.
Can't start running your bed, please. 15 seconds, please.
Haiti's matter is a humanitarian matter.
Yes.
It's an emergency response internationally. And this matter of ridiculing the Haitian people, who was the first republic of all black people.
Yes.
It is so wrong from Fanya Mambo to undermine the people of Haiti. Kenya is not going to Haiti because we are
raising the standard. We are raising the standard.
It is priority for international peace and security.
We gotta step out. We gotta step out. We gotta step out.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I take this chance.
Yes.
There is so-called reference to authority. An authority in the Constitution of Kenya is Ekuru Aukot. He was a CEO and chaired that committee. And he's the one who went against this court. So I echo my brother, my friend, Ekuru Aukot, who won this in court. Long live the rule of law. Long live the rule of law.
He didn't win anything. He didn't win anything.
Guess what? That's exactly how it is. When it comes to priority, we don't know what's going to be. So we're just waiting to see exactly what those issues they're going to be saying, they're going to be giving priority. Today, that particular hearing is going to start. The National House is back. I'll be calling this gentleman again Monday, so we see exactly what they say the priority is going to be. That's it. The order paper. That's it. Sheila, bye. We're going to step out. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being around. All right.